Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The Birds season is over. Plenty of questions about what's next for the organization, and we are talking about it with you. Now, Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
I don't know if I've ever been more angry, more disgusted, more disappointed in an Eagles team in my life. I really don't know. You know, we almost ignored everything because they were at one point 10-1. They fall to 11-6. It got hard to ignore stuff. And I know there were people down in the dumps going into the game yesterday, but it was the freaking Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you lost. And you didn't just lose. You were freaking embarrassed. The fact that it was a one-score game at halftime, that alone was a miracle. If you were looking for any sort of miracle in that game yesterday, just being down a touchdown at halftime was the miracle. The defense, I've never seen such a poor display of tackling in my life. Seriously, I can't think of another time in the NFL. Look, I've watched some pretty bad college football with the program I support. I haven't even seen it that bad. Maybe Pee Wee football? I saw tackling displays worse. This is the NFL. There's guys that not only can't wrap up, right? Like James Bradbury can't wrap up. There's guys that don't take proper angles, or there's guys that are just avoiding contact altogether because they realize this team was dead and has been dead since Seattle. The defense just abysmal. However, they somewhat kept you in the game in the third quarter. And then when it was time to rely on the offense, the side of the ball where the quarterback's getting paid $250 million, the side of the ball without A.J. Brown, but still Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and that offensive line and DeAndre Swift, they can't do anything. So now that the season's over, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And one of those questions will be the job security of Nick Sirianni. I said this to Ray right before the show started. It's something that I knew I would say at some point on the air. And I'll say it right out of the gate. Nick Sirianni needs to be fired. You can't go into a game like that last night and not have a plan offensively to beat a blitz. You just can't. They didn't surprise you with what they did, Tampa Bay. They showed it from the jump. They had their corners playing press man, and they had linebackers and safeties up in the box. It was no surprise what the Buccaneers were going to do. And this isn't a one-time thing. I go back just 2 weeks ago when they lost to the New York Giants. And they had no plan to go up against the blitz that the Giants were sending every single play from Wink Martindale. A team in which you just played 2 weeks prior. Not having any sort of plan, or maybe a plan that even works a little bit, is malpractice and is a fireable offense. Nick Sirianni did a tremendous job in year one, handing over the keys of the offense to Shane Steichen, motivating a team of young players and a group of vets that were here, that were going to be here through the rebuild, that we so respect and appreciate. Year two, they go to the Super Bowl, man. The Super Bowl. And we're so close to winning it. I don't want to just say all that stuff goes out the window. But when you're 10-1 and you start to spiral downhill. And in 7 weeks, guys, listen, 7 weeks, 2 months, you can't find out a single thing that works that you can build off of. That is a fireable offense. We talk about the NFL or any sport, maybe not as much baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and how sports is not just about talent, it's also a game of adjustments. We talk about halftime adjustments. We talk about adjustments after the first drive. You have to make in-season adjustments too. And they never did. I will give you an example from yesterday when we talk about how predictable this offense is. This is not me tooting my own horn. This is not me making up some story. You can ask Pat Egan himself. Because Pat and I were together at the watch party, thanks to our friends at Corona at Barnaby's in Westchester. It was third down, nearing the end of the first half. And I said to Pat, before I even saw the formation, I didn't even see the formation yet. They are going to run a bubble screen or a wide receiver screen here. Because I knew what the mindset was. All right, if we don't get the first down, Tampa's going to have to burn one of their timeouts. And now they'll only have 2 left if we punt. Now, fortunately for the Eagles, Tampa never called the timeout and they let the clock run out. But I knew right away, they're going to do whatever they can to keep the ball in bounds, but they also don't want to just run the football and basically look like they gave up on said drive. I knew that before I even saw the formation. And then we saw the formation. And I said, look, Pat, here it comes. And it did. Again, I'm not doing this to toot my horn. I'm doing this to show how bad, how predictable the offense is that a nobody named Andrew Salchunas, who, like you, is an Eagles fan, right? Like, I was just blessed to go down this path of radio, that I have a microphone in front of me, and I get paid to talk about a team. I'm blessed to do this. But I am just like you. We sit down every single week. We watch every single snap. We listen to press conferences. We hear what reporters are saying. I'm just like you. I'm just lucky enough to have a microphone in front of me. I know I was not the only person in the Philadelphia area that probably called out a bubble screen is coming here. That's how predictable this offense is. And that is a fireable offense for Nick Sirianni, who always says it starts with him. It's his offense. It's his game plan. If your game plan going up against a Todd Bowles defense has no answers against a blitz, it's malpractice, and it's a fireable offense. Jalen Hurts, I don't really know what to say. He didn't play well yesterday. Do I think he was in the best position? Of course not. When I'm talking about not having a plan against the blitz, how can I blame Jalen Hurts? Him running 14 yards backwards into an end zone, taking a safety, was one of the more astonishing things I've ever seen in my life. 14 yards. They weren't on the 2. They were on the 14. He dropped 14 yards back and was brought down and tried throwing the ball away and was called for a safety. But you know what? That doesn't really even matter all that much. Because I texted Ray Dunn when the Eagles were down 3-0. Tampa gets 3 points. Eagles do nothing offensively. And the first couple plays of the next drive for Tampa, boom, 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 downfield. I texted Ray, because I was at the bar, that the vibes here are incredibly down bad. Everyone knew it. And that's the worst part. The fact that everybody that took the time to watch, everybody that went out to a bar and paid their hard-earned money to have a beer and some food to watch the game, everybody who braved the elements yesterday, driving somewhere to get together with family and friends to watch a playoff game, We all basically wasted our times yesterday. Time that we'll never get back. And the time was wasted because that team did not show up. Those stories coming out yesterday morning, and I'm sorry, shame on anybody for ripping Tim McManus and Jeff McClain. They're not the reason why the team lost yesterday. Oh, why are you doing this on game day? I would imagine that a lot of the players aren't reading articles like that the day of a game. But there's a reason why that stuff came out yesterday, the day of the game. It's because they knew they had no shot. And if they did beat the Buccaneers, they knew that they weren't going to go into Detroit and stop Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery. They're not stopping those dudes. And if you think that the Buccaneers' pressure was going to be hard, imagine that defensive line in Detroit getting to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. They knew that they were done. But unfortunately, because we are Eagles fans, because we love this team, we did what we always do. We sat down for kickoff and watched that entire game. And we wasted our times. They wasted our times. Today's a tough day. It's going to be a tough week. Hell, it's going to be a tough offseason. There should be, I will say, a new head coach. Another coach. Doug was just here a couple of years ago. Chip before that. Andy before that. We're going to have another new head coach. We're going to have another new system. And not only are you going to have new coaches and a new system, you're going to have a lot of new players. You have to have a complete overhaul in defense. There's going to be guys that are retiring. Adam Schefter already reporting today that Jason Kelsey is going to retire. You're now going to have to move Cam Jurgens from right guard to center, who had a freaking terrible game yesterday, by the way. It's going to be a long and hard offseason. Days of getting excited for the draft, they're going to come back. Not like top 10 pick excited, but trying to find the guy that's going to rewrite the ship here in Philadelphia in multiple areas. Unfortunately, these days are back because they need to have a complete overhaul. I'm in pain today. I know a lot of you are as well. Today's a day about reaction. No guests today. Jeff McClain's going to come on tomorrow. He usually joins us on Tuesdays. He'll be on tomorrow. Press conferences have been going on in the afternoon at this point, so I don't expect Nick Sirianni to talk during this show. So it's a show for you to react, a show for you to let off your frustration, a show for you to just get everything off your chest, even though today won't be it. There's going to be many days for it. There's going to be many angles to talk about. But today, just an overall day to react to a season that collapsed 2 months ago. At least started to. I thought I was onto something when I said they looked dead after the Seattle game. But of course, as we should, we got excited for a playoff game. We had more energy than that team did last night. And that's damning. The number to climb in is 610-632-0975. I'm Andrew Salchunas. It's the Midday Show. I'll probably yell and scream later on. This is the calm before the storm. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A flat-out disgrace. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Wendy's. The Wendy's Biggie Bag comes with your choice of JBC or crispy chicken sandwich, plus 4-piece nugs, junior fries, and a small soft drink. U.S. price and participation may vary. Third-party delivery pricing may be higher. The Birds were...
It's 10:23. 97.5 The Fanatic Hour, 10 o'clock hour, brought to us by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all-style windows. Plus, make no down payment, no payments, and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. To steal the word of the day from the best show ever, for me, it's malpractice. It was malpractice for the Eagles, led by Nick Sirianni and offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, to have absolutely no plan to go up and beat the blitz that you knew was coming your way, man. You knew it was coming. You should have known it was coming against the Giants 2 weeks ago. You should have known it was coming just yesterday. You played them in week 3. It's not like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were an expansion team that formed yesterday, and you've never seen them before. Countless weeks of tape, not just week 3. If you watched any Buccaneers game, and I know, we're not always watching other teams, but if you watched a half of a Buccaneers game that didn't include the Eagles, you saw that they brought pressure against any team. Malpractice that the Eagles did not have a plan to go up against it. They scored 9 points yesterday. 9 points, man. So I saw something yesterday from my buddy Brandon Lee Gouton, who does a tremendous job with Bleeding Green. And he posted a blurb from Jeff McClain. This was from September 5th. I'm guessing Sirianni was on the Uncovering the Birds podcast that Jeff McClain hosts, or this may have been a press conference and they played it. I'm not 100% sure. But I talked about adjustments and how the NFL is a league of adjustments. Going up against what defenses are showing you. How to stop offenses, about what the league's doing, right? It's a copycat league, all this kind of stuff. So this quote from Sirianni is astonishing to me that he truly believed this. I'll read it for you, and then we'll go to the phones. Quote, so one thing we wanted to do with our team offensively, let's say, is try to really, because notice he never knows how to just answer a freaking question. Sorry. Try to really, pause. It's not always about coming up with new plays and new wrinkles and new things like that. Sometimes it's just getting better. And a lot of times it's just getting better at your base stuff. And how do you coach it better? And how do you do it better? And off of that, what are some wrinkles off of that? Not necessarily new things, but things that are wrinkles. I guess I would say where I'm going with that is that's the same way I thought about year 3. I don't think it's anything new. It's about how do we get better at what we're already doing. So this is from September 5th. We're going into the season. And Sirianni is basically telling you, we're just going to keep on doing what we've been doing. I understand the old adage of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But, I'm not talking about, a leaky pipe in your house, but the sink's still running. I'm talking about the freaking NFL, where the best coaches, the best players in the world are going up against you. It's not that fascinating anymore to hear Christian McCaffrey on the Manning cast point out a play when they do the same thing over and over again. What wrinkles? So instead of a tush-push, you sometimes hand the ball off. You do the fake tush-push. Instead of running a bubble screen with Devontae Smith, you're going to run it with Julio Jones or Dallas Goedert and have Devontae block up front and get hurt because of it. Basically, what Nick Sirianni told us before the season even started, told Jeff McClain, which of course is us because he's the media, is that they were just going to try to run the same offense. And it worked for a bit. Weeks like 4 through 9. And then teams caught on. And what Bosa said after the 49ers game was spot on. That they put out the blueprint. Now, I still credit the Buffalo Bills for putting out the blueprint, and I give the Eagles a lot of credit, and I give Brian Johnson credit in that game of making adjustments in the second half. I think the Bills put out the beginning of the blueprint, and I think the 49ers finished the project. And since then, they had no answer against what defenses were doing to them every single week. And when you can't come up with a single answer, then you're not the right guy for the job. They didn't play the 49ers last week, right? It's not like the 49ers put out the blueprint in Week 18, and then they unfortunately lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've been struggling against blitzes since that Niners game. It's been almost 2 months, guys. Imagine going into work every single day and talking about all the hours that you put into it like Sirianni does. And every single day, you never come up with an answer for whatever walk of life, whatever walk of work that you do. That's problematic. And there are big names out there that are available. This team is too talented offensively. I mean, think about it for a second. This team is far too talented offensively, even without A.J. Brown, for them to put up just 9 points in a playoff game. 9 points. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Biscuit on the cell. What's up, Biscuit?
Good morning. Good morning. How you?
You know, miserable.
Hey, listen, man. My heart is broken.
Absolutely.
I'm a season ticket holder. I love my Eagles, man. I'm hurt. But I just want to say, Kelsey, enjoy your retirement. I love you guys. I mean, he's a horse. He did his thing. But the rest of these cats, man, can't tackle, can't cover, doing the same plays over and over. I can tell you what play is about to come on.
Yep.
And they haven't done anything to fix it. Sirianni got us to the Super Bowl, but you got to go. You have to go.
I mean, and I know people are going to bring up the Super Bowl. Like, I had a guy tweeting at me saying, you know, they made the playoffs 3 straight years. They were in the Super Bowl last year. It's not just the fact that they made the playoffs 3 straight years. Like, they were 10-1, and I know they finished the regular season 11-6. Let's call it 11-7 because they lost yesterday. He did not have a single answer.
And I agree
over the last 2 months.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. They didn't do anything. I mean, if you're constantly doing the same thing over and over and over, that everybody, 49ers, they exploited us. And they showed us where our weaknesses are.
Yeah, they just attacked the middle of the field. Thanks for the call, man. I mean, Ray and I were joking about this before the show. Kate Otten looked like Gronk. Baker looked like Brady. It looked like Brady to Gronk last night. But it was freaking Baker Mayfield to Cade Otton. And, oh my God, this game should have been a blowout at halftime if the Buccaneers weren't dropping as many passes. I think they ended up breaking the record. I know at one point they showed most drop passes in a playoff game since 2005. I don't know what the team was. They showed it on the broadcast yesterday. And then they ended up proceeding to drop more passes. If Mike Evans doesn't drop 2 potential touchdown passes, I mean, we're going into halftime 23, maybe 30. Or you change the field goals into touchdowns, but they're in the 20s. They were lucky it was a 16-9 football game at halftime. Lucky. Not because they did anything defensively. And look, I got to give the defense somewhat of credit for keeping it in a ball game as long as they did. Because, my God, you want to talk about the field position that they had to start off in. The offense did them no favors. The coaching staff, offensively, did them no favors. Those 2 3rd and 2s in the first half But when you're losing, obviously you need to still be the freaking head coach of the football team. You still need to come up with answers. You can't just look like you're a deer in the headlights, which he seemed to be a lot yesterday. But Nick Sirianni earlier this year got all chesty. You know, for us, it's basically 1st and 9 every single time because of the tush push. When it's 3rd and 2, why are we taking a deep shot downfield to Dallas Goedert? And oh, by the way, why is Devontae Smith within 5 yards of him? Seriously, what play design was that? Troy Aikman points it out, but once again, I don't need Troy Aikman pointing out the ineptitude of the Eagles offense when we've been seeing it for freaking months. Oh, you know, it's 1st and 9 every time for us. Well, then on 3rd and 2, I don't care if you're averaging 2 yards per carry. You got a 1st down. And if not, it's 4th and 1. Then you tush push your way into a 1st down. And then all of a sudden, early in the game, they punt when they're on their own 40, and he gives the answer after the game, post-game, his press conference. Well, you know, I don't want to give them good field position that early in the game. Brother, I don't care if they start on the half-yard line. They are gashing your defense up and down the field. You're not getting a single stop. You're not going to win punting the football. You're not going to win the game with field goals. You need to score touchdowns. And I know your offense wasn't moving the ball well, but who cares at this point? It's win or go home, and you're home. And soon to potentially out of a job. Gino in Philly. What's up, Gino?
Hey, Judas, what's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
No, he needs to go, man. There's absolutely no heart in this team at all. No, you know what? No cojones. But
and it was noticeable. It was noticeable at 3-0. At 3-0, it was noticeable.
Right, exactly. There's no heart. There's no desire. It seems like it's like an oh well type thing, you know? It's like you said, it's deer in the headlights. But like when you run this bubble screen crap, why do you have your smallest receiver, one of your smallest receivers, blocking for your even smaller receiver?
Because it might catch the other team off guard, Gino.
Yeah, okay, come on.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Like I don't have an answer for you. They ran it all season. That's the crazy thing to me. They ran that play all season. And it was never really effective. It worked one time against the 49ers when it was 3rd and 19 and Devontae Smith got the 1st down. And a couple weeks later, when it didn't work again, Brian Johnson had the balls to say in his press conference, well, it worked in the past. I don't freaking care if it worked in the past, dude. If they see it, again, these are the smartest coaches and the smartest players in the world. That's why they're in the NFL. If they've seen you line up like that before, they probably know what's coming.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's like, why isn't A.J. Brown blocking for Devontae Smith in that time? He's bigger. He's stronger. I don't know. It baffles my mind. It really does.
I mean, it was 2 months of no answers. I mean, that to me, I mean, not just last night being malpractice and a fireable offense. Right. The fact that you have 2 months to try to figure something out, Gino, what do you do in life? What kind of work do you do?
I drive a truck.
All right, you drive a truck, and your truck's not starting for a couple days, right? And
yep.
but now 2 months have gone by, and you still haven't delivered whatever you need to deliver. Like, is your boss gonna be okay with that?
Not at all.
No, you figure it out.
Yeah, you figure it out. Right, you get it done.
Or at least you come up with an idea. And thanks for the call, Gino. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Did they do Ray Dunn? Good morning. Hi, how are you? I'm sorry.
Not a good morning. But hey, how are you?
Did the Eagles do anything different over the last 2 months?
No.
Did they? I remember we all got excited because they started running the pistol against the Giants the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see it again? I'm not even saying that would have been the answer, but did you see anything again? Did you see any new blitz designs other than or defensive designs other than dropping Hassan Reddick back in coverage? Did you see anything change? I understand Matt Patricia. He wanted 3 safeties, and unfortunately for them, they were down to 1 yesterday in Byard, who sucks, by the way. I never want to see that dude wear an Eagles jersey ever again. At the time, it was the move that the Eagles had to make. They had to trade for him because they weren't going to win with Terrell Edmonds. Justin Evans was hurt. Like, they needed to make the move for Kevin Byard. But that dude, when I talk about a guy who did not even show a little bit of effort yesterday, that dude's missing tackles. He's like going for a tackle, knowing he's going to miss, probably to avoid contact. And all that dude he just talks all the time. Talks all the time. points out what's wrong, and I appreciate it, but then he doesn't do anything about it. That guy sucked. My God, what an awful addition. Nobody thought Byard was going to save the season, but holy hell. But seriously, over the last 2 months, I didn't see them do anything different. Nothing. It was the same routes. It was the same run designs. We talk about creativity. Go back to that Seattle Seahawks game in the second half. Their run designs were creative. They fake handoff to one guy, handoff to the other. Counters. Like, it's the same crap every single time with the Eagles. They had 2 months to try to figure it out. And he didn't even come up with somewhat of a solution.
No. It was, hey, we're just going to flip the switch. It's all going to start working again. That's what it was.
I think he legitimately thought our talent is better than their talent. We will be able to win football games.
Yes, and we're going to end up executing what we executed before, and that the adjustments the other teams made will slowly stop working for them.
Well, that quote that I read to you is exactly to that point. Well, we're just going to make some tweaks to what we have been doing. Dude, eventually you're going to get figured out. That is sports. In any sport. If a guy has a tendency in the post in basketball, you don't think they study enough film for a guard to come up and swipe the ball away? Baseball, how many times did you see the rookie come up and hit 10 home runs in his first 10 games, and then he does squat the rest of his career? That's sports. He didn't make a single adjustment. He's the head coach. And then there's the confusion of who's calling plays, whose offense is it? Well, whoever it is, whether it's Sirianni's or Brian Johnson's, it blows. It's terrible, and it needs to go. We'll continue the conversation. I will keep you up to date on any sort of news that may come up. You know, I don't know if they make a decision today. And a decision could be the Eagles are maintaining Nick Sirianni. Like, we could get the report. I'm trying to figure out how long it was after the Jags got eliminated from the playoffs. The statement that they fired their defensive coordinator, special teams guy, somehow Press Taylor remained, and Doug Peterson remained. So there could be the Brian Johnson and Sean Desai and Matt Patricia have been relieved of their duties, which means Nick Sirianni would have another year in his chance to try to find coordinators, or Howie's chance.
He ain't finding any more coordinators.
Howie's chance to find new coordinators, which, by the way, Howie deserves a lot of blame for all this, too. But, you know, we might get something today. If not today, it'll be tomorrow. Regardless, man, you know, something has to happen. We're all just kind of waiting for it at this point. We all know something will happen. It's just a matter of when. All right, I'll continue to break this down and react to the biggest collapse of my life in sports. And that's not just radio guy making a harsh statement, hot take. It's the biggest collapse of my life in Philadelphia sports. Not just having a 3-2 series lead like the Phillies did, like the Sixers did. This was a 2-month collapse. They were 10-1. And counting the playoff game, they finished 11-7. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The disaster is over. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by PJ Williams Half Price Wings tonight. Don't miss out on Half Price Wing Night tonight and every Tuesday at PJ. Stop in from 4 to 10 p.m. and enjoy your favorite wings at half the price. Gotta love your local PJs. The Birds were embarrassed on Wild Card Weekend. They lost 32-9 to the Buccaneers. It was a disaster of a game, and for all the conversation about the team flipping the switch of the postseason, this team showed the same flaws that sunk them throughout the end of the regular season. The offense couldn't deal with the blitz, had zero rhythm, while the defense couldn't make a tackle and allowed 30 points for the fifth time in 8 games. Now the fallout, Nick Sirianni and this coaching staff's future is still yet to be decided. He addressed his future after the game.
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the guys. Again, there's a lot of guys in that locker room, all the guys in that locker room, every single one of them that put their heart and soul into this. I'm not worried about me.
In the end, Sirianni's squad lost 6 of its last 7 games. On top of the disaster, ESPN's Adam Schefter is reporting that Eagles center and future Hall of Famer Jason Kelce is expected to retire. The 76ers and Flyers both won on Monday, so that's pretty cool. 76ers return to action tonight against the Denver Nuggets at 7:30. You hear the live call right here on 97.5 The Fanatic, and the Flyers back in action Thursday against the Stars. This update's also brought to you by Indeed.com. Make the hiring process work for you with Indeed's end-to-end hiring solution. You can attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Start at Indeed.com/credit. Keep it locked here for all the latest news and information. I'm Ray Dunn for 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Paul Reed, reminding you every 76ers game, home and away, right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
The big plays, the moments that matter. Mo Bamba here to tell you that this is the radio home of the Philadelphia 76ers. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey guys, it's Pat Egan, and I want you to start 2024 off with a bang. I'm talking a big bang. A bang like your partner hasn't seen in years, maybe? All you have to do is hit up my friends at Blue Chew. You might be asking what Blue Chew is. Well, Blue Chew is the first chewable that has the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but it's at a fraction of the cost. There's no going to a doctor. There's no going to a pharmacy. Because when you head to BlueChew.com, it's one-stop shopping. You go to BlueChew.com, you meet with a licensed medical professional, and then those chewables are shipped to your door in a discreet package. So nobody knows but you and your satisfied partner. But here's how confident Blue Chew is that you and your partner will be satisfied. They want to give you your first month completely free. All they're asking you to do is pay the $5 for shipping. Head to BlueChew.com right now and sign up. Make sure to use the promo code FANATIC when you do, and they're going to send you your first month completely free. You just got to pay that $5. So what are you waiting for? Try Blue Chew free when you use the promo code FANATIC at checkout. It can truly be a new year and a new you, all thanks to Blue Chew.
Hey guys, Bob Cooney here. At FanDuel Casino, we know the only thing better than a win is a free win. And that's why they made Reward Machine, the daily free-to-play game that gives you a chance to win up to $2,000 in casino bonus. They've given away over $50 million in
A Birds playoff update on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Ending in embarrassment. I'm Ray Dunn with this Birds playoff update. And a loss fitting of the embarrassment of the final 6 weeks of the regular season. The Eagles lost 32-9 to the Buccaneers in the finale of Wild Card Weekend. The offense was putrid. Defense couldn't tackle. Ultimately, it was the sum of the city's fears in Tampa Bay. The Eagles did not score in the second half and struggled against the blitz once again. Sirianni was asked post-game how he felt Jalen Hurts dealt with the blitz.
Hey, I mean, we scored 9 points, so how do I think the better way to say that is how do you think the coaching staff and the players handled the blitz tonight? Because it's not just on one person. We didn't do a good enough job. It starts with me, being able to put them in the right positions to help them make plays. Tried some different things. Hats off to them. They had a good game plan. We didn't coach or play well enough tonight.
Of course, the question then arises about the future of Sirianni and his coaching staff. Here's his answer on that.
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the guys. Again, there's a lot of guys in that locker room, all the guys in that locker room, every single one of them that put their heart and soul into this. I'm not worried about me. I'm not worried. I'm you know, as the head coach, I'm just trying to be there for our guys and our staff right now.
As for some of the Eagles' core players, Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson expressed their desire to return next season. However, ESPN's Adam Schefter is reporting that Jason Kelsey is expected to retire. Keep it locked here for all the latest Birds news and information. I'm Ray Dunn, your home for continuing coverage of the Birds as we deal with the fallout of their loss in the NFL wildcard round. 97.5, The Fanatic.
The Birds season is over. Plenty of questions about what's next for the organization, and we are talking about it with you. Now, Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
You know, that was very well professionally done, Ray. I do think mine was better, though. Just screaming they lost.
I mean, hey, there's one coming at 12:55. I won't even bother firing away at the Birds update if you want to just yell that and we can move on.
They lost. They lost. The head coach has no clue. And I had to hear for the millionth time in that update that he just did there, and it was very well done, saying it starts with me. How many times have we had to hear Nick Sirianni say it starts with me? And, like, now I get it. It sounds like the Andy Reid thing. I got to do a better job, right? And Andy Reid was a tremendous head coach here in Philadelphia and has continued to be a tremendous head coach and will be one of the greatest head coaches in the history of the NFL, right? And so I probably shouldn't take too much away from a press conference. But when I keep on hearing it starts with me and there's never an answer, right? Andy Reid at least got to 4 straight NFC championship games, 5 in his time here in Philadelphia. Sirianni did get to a Super Bowl. But when you're 10-1, and then you lose to San Francisco, it's not just about game planning, which, let's face it, was a major deal. You allowed the locker room to crumble from within. I still remember Tim McManus in a report telling us that the locker room was teetering. He said that on the air, on this show, before the flip to Matt Patricia. And I'll just tell you, when the flip happened, Tim texted me because it was on a Saturday, right? It was Sunday, right?
Sunday.
It was that weird, like, Jay Glazer all of a sudden reports this during the Fox pregame show because the Eagles are getting set for the Monday night game. Tim just randomly texts me, teetering. That's the only word he used. Clearly, this had started a while before. I don't think Matt Patricia, like, that move was like what set the team off. Jeff McClain talked about how they're one of the more miserable 10-1 teams he'd ever been around. And so when you start having issues in the locker room, when you're winning, and you start losing the amount of games that they lost, clearly your voice is no longer heard. And then when it comes to the actual game plan, when you don't have a freaking answer, I'm going to sound like a broken record today. We all knew what they were going to do last night. Tampa. We all knew it. We all knew that Todd Bowles, who is known for this, is going to bring pressure. Todd Bowles has also brought pressure twice now against Jalen Hurts going into this game, now 3 times as a DC, now head coach. And it worked. The playoffs a couple of years ago. And then in week 3, it's not like Jalen Hurts had some spectacular game. He just finally started to make some plays because the first 2 weeks were worse. You knew what Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers were going to do defensively. You knew what the game plan was going to be. They weren't all of a sudden going to drop back in coverage and only rush 3. They were never going to do that. And you didn't have a single answer to it. That's malpractice. That is a fireable offense. I'm not a yell and scream for somebody's job guy all that often, but Nick Sirianni should be fired for last night alone. Forget the fact that he didn't have an answer over the course of 2 months, but in a playoff game, when you're supposed to be up all night, right? You're sleeping at NovaCare, you're sleeping at the office, coming up with answers, studying film. We knew what was coming. And your plan of attack was the same thing you've been doing for 2 months. Come on, man. Like, it almost seemed like, have you ever worked with somebody that gave their 2 weeks notice? Like, you know, they're showing up, but why bother putting in extra effort? Right? Like, why bother? You're leaving in 2 weeks anyway. You're going to tell me to not come in the next week? All right, fine. I already gave you my 2 week notice. I did the professional thing. That's almost what it seemed like he did, but it was a 2 months notice. Like, you know, not going to be here in 2 months anyway, so I might as well just keep doing this. Why bother? I'm not saying that's what it was, but that's how it seemed. They did nothing different. Nothing.
Almost felt like he realized he accomplished something. It was like, what are they going to do?
Yeah, right.
Fire me? Like, oh, are you really going to fire the guy that took you to a Super Bowl last year? We can keep rolling with what I'm doing. They love what I'm doing. This is all going to work out. No way I get fired, right?
I guess.
That's what it felt like to me. To me, it felt like someone that accomplished something, got so set in the mind that they had accomplished something and that they were just going to continue on with the way they had done it. And ultimately, their end justification to all this was, what? What are you going to do?
Dude,
fire me?
I said it on this show. I remember saying it on the pregame show. The offense was so vanilla at one point this year when they were winning games. So vanilla that I remember saying at one point, I wonder if they're just like trying to keep things off tape and maybe save it for the playoffs. Remember, we talked about it.
I remember that. I remember that conversation.
That's when things were going good.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't saying like, man, that's a great idea. I thought, all right, so you're doing that against the lesser opponents. And remember, I was doing the show on Temple's campus. This was leading up to the Cowboys game. It was the beginning of the gauntlet. All right, now everything's got to, like, no more just, like, saving stuff off tape. You got to go all out here, right? You can't try to control snap counts so that come playoff time, you're rested. Like, no, this is the gauntlet. You got to start winning football games, you know, because if you lose, I remember if they lost that Cowboys game, the Cowboys then beat the Giants, you would have been in second place coming out of the bye week. Shame on me for even thinking that that was a possibility. What they did from week 1 is what they did in week 18 and what they did in the first round of the playoffs. And the problem is it had stopped working for 2 months. That's the biggest issue. It's not like it stopped working last night. It stopped working 2 months ago.
And even when it worked in flashes.
Right.
This like, how many times we say, well, where was the complete team win?
Right. Well, I'm talking about, like, I'm focusing offensively. Where they did have some 30-point performances, but
okay, so they had a couple, I guess, Commanders, they put up 30 points, and then, you know, Bills, they put up 30 points, worked in the second half. Made adjustments, worked in the second half. You know, I feel like we were talking about consistently, you know, they found something, they wrote it to a victory by the end of it. You know, the Chiefs game. Right. They scored 7 in the first half. Oh, they figured out something, worked in the second half. Cowboys, worked in the second half. Like, there was times where it was like, it just, nothing clicked. Something happened. They were able to string together a couple of drives consecutively where it looked good, but you left a few games, but those games, and now I think I'm so poisoned by what I watched. Like, I forget. Like, I go back and look at that start of the season. I heard you guys last night on pregame. What was the positives of the first 11 weeks? It's like there's so much time has elapsed, even though it only was like Thanksgiving when they were 10-1. So much has elapsed that I'm just like, yeah, 10-1. What worked? That's a distant memory because there was just such a colossal failure, and it's just such a disgrace how this season ended that I can't even go back so much to what clicked.
No,
and what
I know,
worked.
but what's amazing is like when they were 10-1. I know the schedule got more difficult with the 49ers and Cowboys games in back-to-back weeks. But don't ignore the fact that they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Bills, they beat the Chiefs. Like they beat the Rams earlier in the year, and the Rams were a lot of people thought they would be 0-3 going into that game. They found life with that offense with Puka Nacua.
They beat more playoff teams, I think, than anyone else.
And then it just died because the 49ers did put out a blueprint. And then they never made any sort of adjustment off of it. And it seems like, I don't know, Sirianni can talk to this better than I can. He's the freaking head coach. It seemed like he almost was just like, oh, well, we'll get back to it. We got a lot of talent on this team. It's bad when we can remember the times they ran a creative play. It's bad. Like, I'm not saying I need to have razzle-dazzle for 4 quarters. But it's bad when you run the same plays over and over again, and defenses know what's coming. And then so yesterday, Dan Orlovsky did like this big film breakdown, right? And he's pointing out one specific play, but he kind of used that as the example of what it looked like all night. They could have attacked the middle of the field almost all night because the Buccaneers were, bringing their safeties up in the box, sending pressure. And yet all these third and shorts, it's to the left sideline, to the right sideline. It's a shot downfield on the sideline. Nothing over the middle. Nothing. Let's go to Heavy in Huntington Valley. What's up, Hev?
Yeah, bro. What's good?
What's up?
Dude, like, they knew they were in the playoffs 2 months ago. And in 2 months, they didn't make one intelligent decision to make this team better. I mean, it doesn't, it's not like it just screams bad coaching. It screams absolute incompetence at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, if Devontae Smith doesn't catch that deep ball last night, they lose 32-3.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, Heavy, if the Buccaneers don't drop wide open passes, they might finish with 40.
Yeah. I mean,
think about it. They had 2 field goals early on in the game that should have probably been touchdowns if it weren't for drop passes.
Exactly. I mean, they got past the 30-yard line twice to a team that they were up 25-3 in 52 minutes of play when they last played them. I'm watching the Manning cast last night, and they got Ray Lewis on, and he's sitting there saying, everybody knows what play's coming off.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Peyton Manning saying last night, when this the play with the safety, you're backed up against your own goal line. Why are you calling a play where the receiver routes take a long time to develop? It just nothing that this team did or does just makes any sense. And I think the saddest thing is we got out of the Carson Wentz situation, thinking, here's Jalen Hurts. Finally, we have a quarterback. And I got to be honest, I think it seems like we're pretty much right back in that situation again.
So this is gonna be a scary conversation one day, Heavy, and I appreciate the call. I'm already thinking about topics for next week and later on this week. Today's, we're reacting to the end of the season. But one of the things that really scares you is when you watch this weekend of football and you saw Jordan Love and C.J. Stroud, one rookie and, one first-year starter, do things that I don't know if Jalen Hurts can do. That's scary. Now, Jalen Hurts was tremendous last year. Okay? I don't think Jalen Hurts all of a sudden sucks. I will keep on using the term malpractice. The game plans, the play calls are freaking horrible. That doesn't mean Hurts doesn't deserve blame. Heavy brings up, why are you calling a play when you're on your own goal line? No, they were on their own 14. He ran back 14-plus yards because he was deep into the end zone. And then tried throwing the ball away and was called for intentional grounding, which led to the safety. He wasn't tremendous all season, really. Had a couple good games here and there. Was at one point a front runner for MVP, betting-wise, weeks ago. The best team in football and the quarterback. That's usually how it goes. I don't think he all of a sudden sucks. I'm not going to reach Wentz territory, but I kind of touched on it earlier this year with the fumbles. That's why we did the show of how come Hurts doesn't get criticized as much. Did a whole show on it. I am worried that there are guys that are going to leap ahead of him unless they get the right offensive minds here during the offseason, which, by the way, you're paying him $250 million. Part of the reason why you potentially fire Nick Sirianni and obviously move on from Brian Johnson as well is you need to figure out who can work with the guy that you're paying $250 million.
And make his life easier.
Yes.
His life has not been made easy this season.
No, I don't want to start going, we're reaching a territory where they're going to go 4-11 next year and Tanner McKee's going to start the last games of the season. I'm not going there. But, there's the concerns about one reads.
Listen, the safety was a Wentzian type play.
Yes.
There's been examples of him where he is not, it doesn't look like he's seen the whole field for a play. But the one thing I'll push back when you mention the first-year starters, the league has not yet gotten the C.J. Stroud experience. It's going to be about C.J. Stroud repeating it next season.
Right.
It's going to be about Jordan Love repeating it next season. For a lot of these guys, it's the teams they're playing, either their first look at them or their first real look on tape for the entire NFL.
Right, exactly.
The entire offseason for teams this year was spent, what did the Eagles do well? How can we replicate it?
Take away
and how can we stop what they're doing? So I think there's a lot of tape out there on Hurts to attack, to try and figure out. And on top of that, he was put in a position by the way this offense was schemed up.
Oh, it was malpractice.
That was just poor. And I also think when you have a guy who the real way that this team wants to deal with the blitz is Hurts, you bail us out here, that ends up damaging the psyche of how you see everything. It speeds up the internal clock, I think, for him. And the fact that he was not already, and this is from the report yesterday from Tim McManus, this is not me just pulling something thin out of the air, that he was not thrilled with the direction of the offense.
And this was at the beginning of the spiral.
Yes. All this, whether it be doubt in the offense, doubt in what they're doing, on top of that being basically said, hey, you go make the play for us. I think all that begins to play in the mind of a quarterback trying to, and you start to see hero ball. You start to see him trying to make plays. That safety is him trying to win the football game back when you're on your 14 and you're down multiple scores. Or at that point, you're down one, but still.
That was a one-touchdown game.
But, at that point, he's trying to win the entire game back when all you really need, we need you to go down and tie this football game.
Yeah.
And that's I think a lot of that comes from a lack of trust in what they're doing is going to succeed.
So, look, it's going to be, like you said, an interesting year, too, for some of those quarterbacks. But ultimately, man, you need to get in voices and minds here that will make it easier for them because last year, let's face it, was easy, right? Or at least they made it look easy, right? They went 14-1 in the regular season with him as the starter. And then they get to the Super Bowl. He plays a freaking game of his life. Has an unfortunate fumble where was a freak incident where his leg touches the ball and he loses it.
And we're all confident if there isn't a hold call there, he goes down the field.
Right,
wins that
exactly.
game.
So I don't think he all of a sudden stinks. I don't think he's all of a sudden wins. But it is up to the Eagles, and by Eagles I mean Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, to start finding the right answers in terms of coaches and voices and, quarterback coaches and offense coordinators. Because the crew that you had this year was not it. And I know we keep on talking about Sirianni. Maybe you just need to bring in the right offense coordinator to go along with him. Well, if his job, other than game planning, was to be the CEO head coach, the guy that's supposed to maintain the locker room, he lost that a long time ago. You might need to have a complete overhaul. You're not doing a rebuild. You have too much money invested in too many key players. But you're going to have to do a major retool and a major overhaul in the coaching staff and with some areas of the field, especially defensively. But, now you have to worry about Jason Kelce retiring. 610-632-0975, the number to climb in. We'll continue the reaction, talking about this game, talking about the future of Nick Sirianni, the future of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's scary right now. I mean, that's why they finished basically 11-7 when they were at one point 10-1. Of course it's scary. And I don't know what answers Sirianni will have next year. Talk about it more right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A flat-out disgrace. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Jackson Hewitt Tax Services. Home of the money today, guaranteed. Get a tax refund advance loan at Jackson Hewitt now. No
11:21, 97.5 The Fanatic. 11 o'clock hour, brought to us by Gold Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. We've talked about Jason Kelce a little bit. It is so depressing that that's how it ended. And we didn't expect, like, the magical run, right? Like, nobody thought they were going to get back to the Super Bowl, once the playoffs started. But it would have been nice had they lost in a game in which, I don't know, maybe a couple of players showed like they cared. That's all. I got Kelce freaking tearing up on the sideline, walking off the field, shaking hands with his family, declining to speak, which I don't blame him. That's going to be a press conference that I can't wait to hear. Well, no, I can wait because that means it's done. But it's going to be an incredible, captivating press conference. Like, I think back to Zach Ertz's, right? Zach Ertz does not have the impact, or did not make the impact that Jason Kelce made in terms of, I would say, fanfare. Obviously, Zach Ertz had some of the biggest plays in Super Bowl 52, so clearly he made an impact to the city. But Jason Kelce's like a Philadelphian at this point, right? Like, he's probably going to be one of those guys that stays here. Maybe buys a house somewhere. But he's probably going to be a guy that stays in the Philadelphia area. He loves the Jersey Shore. He does a lot of great things in the community, which we should always appreciate and respect. He'll probably be around here in the media, right? Like, we can be honest with ourselves. It just sucks that it ended the way that it did. I don't feel bad for many players on the Eagles because I feel bad for Devontae Smith. Think about the guys that actually seemed to show up yesterday. Feel bad for Devontae Smith. Feel bad for Lane Johnson. Feel tremendously bad for Jason Kelce that it's pretty much over. Feel bad for Brandon Graham, who, even though I disagreed with 98% of the crap that he spewed the last couple weeks of the season, he's still Mr. Eagle, Brandon Graham, right? Most games played in Eagles franchise history. And he actually played all right yesterday. Other than that, I don't feel bad for anyone. I don't feel bad for Cam Jurgens. He was terrible yesterday. That doesn't mean he didn't put forth effort. Fletcher Cox, yeah.
I mean,
the guys that are retiring, right? The guys that are retiring, or the guys that are going to be out of here probably, and who knows where they end up. I don't know. I hope Darius Slay's all right. Him getting carted off, that sucks once the game is pretty much out of reach. That's terrible. So I feel bad for how his season ended with an injury like that. I'm hoping he's okay. We don't know this, the extent of it. But, man, for Jason Kelce to go out like that, it almost makes me wish he retired after the Super Bowl, the loss, even though he'd be hungry for more. And if the season happened the way it did, but Jason Kelce wasn't the center, we'd probably be sitting there going, man, what if Jason was still here? But the fact that he went out when his team showed nothing, I can only imagine. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was at Barnaby's. I wonder if Jason Kelce had some passionate speech at halftime, breaking down in tears because this was the last game for him if they had lost. I'm thinking of Hollywood crap in my brain. Obviously, that didn't happen. He informed the team afterward that he was probably done, or that he is done. But just knowing that it ended the way that it did will always suck. Right? It's always going to suck. Knowing that Jason Kelce's Hall of Fame career ended the way that it did last night. It's a damn shame. Let's go to June in Philly. June, what's up, man? It's been a while.
Yeah. I was just waiting for this last game to happen. That's why I ain't called all season, because I wasn't happy since we lost the Super Bowl. They came back with no fire at all. And
I remember the last time you called, you were talking about the Philadelphia curse, man.
I don't know, man.
I still remember because we were talking about the Phillies and we were talking about the Sixers and the Eagles, and I remember.
I wish the Flyers and the Sixers would have lost last night, because then the Eagles probably would have won. We couldn't get the.
Oh man, there were a lot of people that had the Philadelphia parlay ticket yesterday.
Well, I'm disappointed in the whole year because it was a failure. It seemed like, since the fumble in the Super Bowl, we ain't got it right. Play calling was horrible. Defense was horrible. I feel like if Jim Johnson came back from the grave and Buddy Ryan, we still wouldn't get it done.
No, this defense was trash.
Yeah. But the offense wasn't. They had no fire all year. I know we were 10-1, but everybody, oh man, you hard. That standard of being 10-1 was garbage. That was the worst 10-1 team I ever seen in my life. And we won by luck, and the luck ran out. Come next season, Nick Sirianni got to go. He has to get fired because he gave up the play calling, and the play calling got good. When that play caller left, the offense left.
Yeah.
We missed a lot. I'm sorry. I said it last night. I tweeted. Miles Sanders was missed. DeAndre Swift he pitter patters to the hole. He don't hit the hole and go. He does too much change of direction and all that. This team, man, it was a failure this year. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, we were talking about how they were going to change. They were going to be the outlier. And thanks for the call, June. Even though I don't agree with your Miles Sanders opinion, but that's okay. They were supposed to be the team that was the outlier. We all know the stats. The team that doesn't win the Super Bowl doesn't get back. Sometimes doesn't even make the playoffs, right? They were supposed to be that team. And a lot of it had to do with the youth on this team. I know that you had the vets. We were just talking about Jason Kelce and how that was his last game, right? And, Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. But we were talking about the youth movement, too. Like, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are young. Jalen Hurts is young, and we were expecting them to only get better. Defensively, I don't think we thought that they were going to be the 85 Bears, but we were excited for year 2 of Jordan Davis. Jalen Carter was an exciting player. Nobody thought Hassan Reddick would be dropping back in coverage. Nobody thought that Josh Sweat would get his first sack last night since November. Or nobody expected this kind of stuff. And so this was supposed to be the team that broke through. Even if they lost in the NFC Championship game, they were one game away. They were also supposed to be the team that won the NFC East back-to-back years for the first time in 18 seasons. With the Cowboys losing, it's now 19 seasons since the team has won back-to-back division titles in the NFC East. They were supposed to be that team that broke all these things. That's why we had Super Bowl expectations. And the issue is now that's going to be not an excuse, but people are going to point to that as being the reason why the Eagles had the collapse. Right? We read the Bill Barnwell article a couple of weeks ago. Adam Schefter himself brought it up. We've talked about it with reporters that there seemed to be tension in the locker room. Nobody was at ease because of the expectations. I'm sorry. I can't go into a season every single year and say, I just hope they make the playoffs and then get surprised when they make a Super Bowl run. If you have expectations, you have expectations. You have expectations because the team is good. I didn't have the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl or to the NFC Championship game this year just because I'm a fan. I had high expectations with this team. There's too much talent. And June and everybody that's pointed it out is right. Once they lost Shane Steichen, this offense went bye-bye. They didn't have a clue. The notion that they were lucky to be 10-1, I don't believe that. I really don't. I don't believe that. They kept on winning games. They kept on finding ways to come back and win because that's what good football teams do. But something poisonous ran through NovaCare after losing to the San Francisco 49ers. Something poisonous. Because you don't just completely fall off the way they did. I keep on pointing out the fact that, they didn't win the first 3 weeks of the season and start the season as a fraudulent 3-0 team. And then, then all of a sudden they finish 11-6 or whatever. They were 10-1. That's a good football team. And then it all just crashed and burned. And to me, that starts with the head coach. And that's why he should be fired. I don't know if he will be, because the Eagles just moved on from Doug Peterson after winning a Super Bowl. Now you're going to move on from Nick Sirianni after getting to the Super Bowl last year, getting to the playoffs 3 straight years. I don't know about optics. But to me, if you're Howie Roseman, here's how you spin it. Wow, there's a lot of great candidates that all of a sudden became available. Now, the problem is, one of those candidates is Bill Belichick, right? We did the show last week, Ray and I, that if Sirianni were to be fired, which here's the craziest thing. We said the only way they'd be fired is if it was like an embarrassing loss. Like, he has to be fired now. Would Howie Roseman go for Bill Belichick because of that power structure? Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman need to have a sit down and think this through. Because it's great that they've been in the Super Bowl twice in the last 6 years. It's fantastic. But now also, all of a sudden, twice in the last 4 years, you're thinking this team could go in a bad direction fast. And that's scary. This team is still going to have a lot of talented players next year. Unless the locker room blows up to the point where A.J. Brown's demanding a trade because he scrubbed his Instagram, right? But let's just say the guys that are going to be back are going to be back. You're still going to have a talented roster. It's up to the coaches, whoever you hire. Nick Sirianni himself says it, to put them in the right position to make plays. They weren't over the last 2 months. So is that Belichick? Is that Vrabel? Is that Ben Johnson? Is that another flashy hire coming out of college? Fact of the matter is, the last 2 head coaches the Eagles hired have been unheard of. Right? Doug Peterson was a joke when they hired him. The guy that didn't know the multiple channels on the headset, he was a joke. The Eagles were mocked for hiring him. It worked out. The Eagles were mocked for hiring Nick Sirianni, a guy that nobody heard of. Nobody. I remember booking Field Yates for Anthony because Field Yates worked with Sirianni in the scouting room in Kansas City. That's years ago. You know what I mean? That's the only guy I could think of or find out to talk about Sirianni a little bit. It's not really what Howie and Jeffrey Lurie have done the last couple coaching hires, going after the big flashy name. Oh, man, it's going to be interesting. Let's go to Bill in Utah. Bill, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Bill.
Good. Hey, man, I'm telling you, man, I didn't even watch the fourth quarter because I just knew. I was just forget about it.
Oh, I don't blame you.
Switch back and forth between the Flyers game. I knew they were going to lose. I honestly did. I didn't think they'd get their butt whooped.
Well, the sad thing is, the Buccaneers kept the Eagles in the game, right? It's 16-9, and you have the ball at the end of the first half. You can't do anything downfield. Then you have going 3 and out to start the second half. You want to talk about fireable offenses? Going 3 and out to start the second half. It's awful.
They were out coached. They weren't prepared. It's simple as that. They weren't prepared. But here's the thing. Everyone's talking about Nick Saban getting fired and everything like that. Do I think he should be fired? Yeah. Do I think he will be fired? I don't think so. I think they're probably going to give him another year. I want him fired. If you know you can get Bill Belichick or Jim Harbaugh, you know that they're coming. Then I fire him. I pack his bags for him.
Right, yeah.
But if they fire him and they don't get either one of those guys, honestly, I think it's going to be a guy like I'm really bad with last names. What's his name from Houston? Bobby. What's his name? Smolik.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Or a guy like Ben Johnson. I think it's going to be
Bobby Slowick. He's the offensive coordinator for the Texans.
Yeah. Slowick, that's it. I think it's going to be a name like that. But the only thing that scares me about Bill Belichick is 2 things. One, Howie Roseman isn't going to want to give up any of that power.
Right.
And so forth. And his age. 71 is young, but how many years of coaching in the NFL does he really have left? 5, 6?
I'll take 5-6 years. Like I look to me the amount of years. I'm in the here and now, and here's the thing, Bill. I have a roster that's in the here and now, and thanks for the call. Like this roster on offense doesn't stink. The defense, we know the defense needs a tremendous overhaul. Yesterday when we were all angry at Barnaby's, we're just kind of yelling and screaming and complaining. Like this team really thought that Reed Blankenship was a top safety. You got to make a change there. You got to make 2 safeties. Maybe Blankenship is here as a rotational guy, or maybe he's the second safety. Like, I'm sorry. I know you have to be worried about the cap and all that kind of stuff. I can't go into next year going Reed Blankenship and then placeholder for Sidney Brown until Sidney Brown comes back. Did that work this year? I understand they're young and, they might get more opportunity. That didn't work. You can't bring back James Bradbury. I know he's got a pretty big dead cap hit. I saw somebody tweet out actually, like if they do the post June 1st, it's only $4 million for this season, but then it's still like $12 or $15 million next year. I can't worry about that. I mean, he was unplayable and has been. And I liked Bradbury. I'm glad he was an all-pro last year. That dude looked like he didn't just lose a step, he lost a foot. Looks like he had 1 foot. Like, the guy can't move anymore. You have Darius Slay, who I think can still play a little bit. But you need some sort of youth movement at the cornerback position. I like Avonte Maddox. I can't ever trust him to stay healthy. And then your defensive line, Brandon Graham said yesterday that he would like to do the Swan Song season. All right, great. You bring him back. He's playing 20% of your snaps. There's questions about Jordan Davis. Jalen Carter will be back. We'll see what happens with Fletcher Cox. But again, he's just another rotational guy. I'm giving you rotational names. And then there's Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. What do you do? You need more bodies to give them more breathing room. And whoever your defensive coordinator is can't have Hassan Reddick dropping back in coverage. The defense is terrible. But offensively, you're still built to win. It's going to suck not seeing Jason Kelce out there. It's going to be hard to replace a Hall of Famer, whether it's Cam Jurgens or Ray Dunn. Like, it's going to be hard to replace a Hall of Famer, right? But you'll still have Lane Johnson. You'll still have Jordan Mailata. Not that he's perfect, but quality player. Landon Dickerson's still a solid left guard. You'll still have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, as long as everybody's happy. You'll still have Dallas Goedert. And if Jalen Hurts can get back to where he was last year, like this offense should still be able to put up 30 points a game. It's just whether or not you can get NFL quality players. Moreau's gone. Cunningham's gone. I guess you got to try it one more time with Dean. Not that I think that'll work. I'm not a big Nakobe Dean fan, but you got to try it. Man. Let's go to Mike in Bucks County. Mike, you're on the Fanatic.
Yo, man, what's going on?
What's up?
Well, I was just looking at this. I mean, is there any reason, in your opinion, why Jalen Hurts stopped running the ball? That seemed like the biggest issue for me.
So, yesterday, I thought Jalen Hurts would have been game planned into running because you knew that the blitz was coming, right? You knew that the pressure from Tampa Bay was coming, so you go to those quarterback draws. And, dude, I don't know. There was a play where he rolled out to his right, and he just looked like he was moving as slow as molasses, right? So he might be banged up more than we know. They're pretty good with keeping that stuff quiet. He might need some sort of procedure. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, Mike, but like yesterday, the game plan to me was also involving Jalen Hurts running. Like his over-under for rushing yards was 40 and a half. I thought that was a solid over to hit, and he didn't even come close.
Yeah, and it's really sad because I don't want to speculate, but Kelsey's retirement seemed to be as if he saw the writing in the wall with how this organization's future is going to kind of unfold on us with these next few years. I mean, he's just we know what kind of leader he is in
It
in the locker
could
room.
be. He's also 36
But
years
why-
old. You
why
know.
not running the ball behind this offense? We saw Swift get 2 positive carries early in the game, and we don't go back to him. I just don't see any reason why Swift has 10 carries in that game, and Hurts has 1.
Yeah.
If you look back on these games, Buffalo, Kansas City, Dallas, Hurts has above 10 rushing attempts, and you could say it's tush-push on a few of those, yeah, but so did Swift. I mean, we're getting Swift the ball in the backfield, throwing it out routes to him. We're feeding him the ball 15 carries at minimum, and that's how we saw success. And even with the body language, we saw Hurts when he's handing the ball off to Swift. It didn't even look like an RPO was scheduled into the play. It was like hand the ball off, the play doesn't work, and Hurts is throwing his arms
the
up
body
in the
body
air.
language on that team
It's terrible.
has been terrible for 2 months,
And it's
man.
so contagious. It's so contagious, and it goes beyond football.
And that's why it goes. That's why it goes back to the head coach, right? Like the head coach needs to keep everybody together, and it's.
We have one of the best offensive lines in football.
Yeah.
And we're running the ball with our mobile quarterback and one of our biggest offseason pickups, a combined 11 times. I get we were down, but we got to establish something.
Yeah, but they weren't down. Like it was 16-9.
Eagles football. It wasn't even Eagles football.
No, I mean,
I don't even know what team was on the field.
I don't know what team's been on the field for the last 2 months, Mike. I appreciate the call. I don't know. Now, the Jason Kelsey thing, he maybe Mike's onto something. I still remember when we had the director and the producer of the documentary on. I guess the season started at this point. I forget if it was summertime or if the season started. I remember saying I was filling in for Tyrone in the best show ever. I watched the trailer during a commercial break, and I knew it was the end. Right? Like I could just from the freaking trailer, right? And then if you watch the document, did you end up watching it?
Yeah.
It was tremendous. I knew it was the end.
Yeah. You don't watch that and think, wow, this guy's got a lot of football left.
No.
It's like, wow, let's make sure this season doesn't go to waste.
The scene that got me the most was when his wife Kylie was saying, like, I want him to retire and still be able to, get down on the floor and play with our kids.
As they're showing you footage of him trying to get up from the floor.
Limping around. He had that, like, metal thing around his ankle. Like, that stood out. And so I don't think he's necessarily retiring because of the direction of the organization. Maybe, right? Like, if he knew, like, oh, man, next year we got this. I'll come back one more time. But I think the writing was on the wall going into this season. All right. It's been a depressing but quick 2 hours. We got 2 hours remaining. We got one open line. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. We're reacting to the Eagles' season coming to an end and the future of this team when it comes to the coaching staff. Listen, it's got to change. You can't come back with that coaching staff. Yesterday and the last 2 months have been coaching malpractice on both sides of the ball. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The disaster is over. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Pennsylvania Health Insurance Exchange Marketplace. Get the lowest cost on high-quality health coverage now through Penny PA's Health Insurance Marketplace. You're worth protecting. Enroll by January 19th at penny.com. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars. The Birds were embarrassed on Wild Card Weekend as the Eagles lose 32-9 to the Buccaneers. It was a terrible, terrible game. And for all the conversation about flipping a switch in the postseason, this team showed the same flaws that sunk them throughout the end of the regular season. The offense couldn't deal with the blitz, had zero rhythm, while the defense couldn't make a tackle and allowed 30 points for the 5th time in the last 8 games. Now the fallout. Nick Sirianni and this coaching staff's future is still to be decided. He addressed his future after the game.
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the guys. Again, there's a lot of guys in that locker room, all the guys in that locker room, every single one of them that put their heart and soul into this. I'm not worried about me.
In the end, Sirianni's squad lost 6 of its last 7 games. In the cruelest showing of irony, the season ends in Tampa Bay by a larger margin of defeat than it did
Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. The Birds season is over. Plenty of questions about what's next for the organization, and we are talking about it with you. Now, Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
You know, it's nothing's funny at this point, but our buddy Dan Bagster on Twitter, I just saw him quote tweet the report from January 10th that Brian Johnson was being interviewed for the Carolina Panthers head coaching job. He said Brian Johnson is going to get fired this week and still get multiple head coaching interviews. Now, he continued by saying all because he's buddies with Jalen Hurts. I don't think that's necessarily the reason. He was a coaching candidate when he was still in college at Florida. But it is crazy that there is a legitimate possibility that Brian Johnson could get fired. I wonder if out of respect, the Eagles don't fire Brian Johnson and wait to see if he gets a head coaching job. Out of respect. Because if you fire the guy, that could hurt his chances at getting a head coaching job. Or it's a bad look on the organization when you fire an OC and a team then hires them as the HC. But it does seem like it's trending in that direction where they probably won't, I don't know what they want to do, but where they might part ways. Because, look, you saw Jeffrey Lurie in the box yesterday. Dude, people are losing their jobs.
Oh, most certainly.
Like, it's not even a question.
Well, there's things where it's, hey, I'll book you the flight to Charlotte, or hey, I'll book you the flight to Nashville. Like, you go talk to the Titans, you go talk to the Panthers. Yeah. Before we have this sit-down meeting. If it looks like you can, put ink to paper there. And because I don't think Johnson's the only one to go. I mean, obviously, we know what's going to happen with the defensive side. Yeah. But Saturday, because I really, after our show Friday, and after we talked about, the McLean podcast, Uncovering the Birds with the Lurie is kind of lurking around, starting to get ready to assert his authority. I thought about it the rest of the day. I came in here on Saturday, and my expectation for the game was that they were going to lose. Yes. So the next step for me was, okay, I think they're going to lose the game. Lurie's poking his head around. I've seen the way this has fallen apart, knowing how this organization operates. I didn't really expect Sirianni to survive it. And I understand yesterday we came in with the trying to get ready for the postseason.
Yeah, it's a playoff game. Like, I couldn't go into the game doom and gloom.
Correct.
I said, if they lost, don't worry. I'll be here tomorrow.
And here we are.
Here we are.
And that, to me, like, my expectation changed on the future of Sirianni. And the future of Sirianni obviously rolls with most of this coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, look, if
like Stoutland sticks around,
they're not promoting Brian Johnson, the head coach.
No,
when they fire Nick Sirianni, they're not going to promote Sean Desai to head coach.
Well, they already demoted the guy.
Yeah, dude. That's going to go back. Like, when we talk about this season more, look, just because the season ended yesterday doesn't mean that the Eagles conversation ends at the end of this week. I'm excited to talk Sixers. I'm excited to talk Flyers. My buddy Jared on Twitter pointing out 29 days till pitchers and
you
catchers.
better believe it.
I'm excited for all this kind of stuff because that is the circle of Philadelphia sports, getting our hopes up high and being crushed and just relying on the next team, even though they're probably going to do the same because that's the circle of life in Philadelphia sports. But the conversation is not going to end after this week about the Eagles because of how this season ended. Like, this wasn't a 500 football team that we hoped could make to the playoffs, and if they can't, what do you do next? Like, no, this was a 1964 Phillies-like collapse, if not worse. This is one of the worst collapses in the history of Philadelphia sports. This conversation is not going to end anytime soon. And one of the conversation points at one point will be about Howie Roseman, because I don't believe Nick Sirianni for a minute was the reason why Matt Patricia all of a sudden took over as the defensive play caller. Not DC, defensive play caller. I don't believe that for a second. And I thought about this coming in today. Howie Roseman always has his end of the season press conference. I can't wait for somebody to ask him what really went into the decision of demoting Sean Desai and promoting Matt Patricia. Like, who made that decision? Sirianni fell on the sword, said it was his decision, but I don't believe it. I believe that the Eagles hired Matt Patricia to be a part of the staff, which I had no problem with, but keeping the idea in the back of their mind that if this unproven DC and Sean Desai starts to struggle, we have a guy that we can fall back on. Now, Sean Desai is looking like the greatest defensive coordinator in the history of the NFL because this defense, as bad as it was, had gotten worse. The tackling display that we have seen, the ability for players to be wide open, we have seen way too often in the NFL, right? Like, again, this isn't D3 football. With all due respect to those who play D3 football, this is the NFL, cream of the crop. Over the last couple of weeks, I've seen guys running into each other way too often. Last night was not a one-time thing where two players collided. Was it Bradbury and Maddox? It happened the previous week. We had Eagles players tackling each other. I think Bradbury tackled Ricks last week against the Giants. It's happened far too often. Like, guys don't know where they're supposed to be. The defense got worse under Matt Patricia. If that was fully Nick Sirianni's decision, which I doubt it, that is a fireable offense. Not having an idea of how to go up against the opposing team's blitzes is a fireable offense. Playing your starters in what ended up being a meaningless game to me is maybe not a fireable offense, but then putting Jalen Hurts back out there after dislocating his finger and then talking about how tough he is. Fireable offense. Going from 10-1 to 11-6 and then losing the first round of the playoffs and being embarrassed. Fireable offense. They just keep stacking up. But because I don't truly believe that it was Nick Sirianni's decision, Howie Roseman needs to be criticized a lot more. Jeffrey Lurie's not going to fire him. I'm not calling for the firing of Howie Roseman. But my God, like, if you need to start sitting down and thinking about, all right, maybe we do need to bring in a guy who's going to handle himself a little bit differently and maybe not be as much of a puppet, that conversation might need to happen between Lurie and Howie. Now, the problem is, Lurie himself was getting involved. You just brought it up. He was getting himself involved with player operations. And then that starts to scare you a little bit. Now, it's worked. 2 Super Bowl appearances in 6 years. Is it that they just need the right offensive genius head coach? Is that all that they need? Because they're so deep into the analytics department and they believe in certain things. And, you know, this is the style of defense. It's an organizational philosophy. This style of offense, organizational philosophy. If Jalen Hurts is your guy, which clearly he is, they paid him all that money, they need to find some sort of offensive mind to work with him. And I'm seeing that it's not Sirianni and Brian Johnson. But, man, that also starts above them. Maybe the philosophy's wrong. Let's go to Tim in Harrisburg. Tim, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, how are you?
What's up, Tim?
Well, Nick Sirianni isn't fired yet, so my blood pressure is rising by the half hour. No, it's not going to be a surprise pile on. I mean, the guy should have been fired last night. I understand why he wasn't fired last night. I understand why he's not fired right now. But in the next 48 hours, there has to be a decision. And, you know, thinking about it, if they try and keep him, so, okay, they're going to hire a defensive coordinator. Well, what top defensive assistant would want to take a job when the head coach
with these
or the
players?
GM, they're going to throw them overboard halfway through the season and cover up for the failings of the front office and for the head coach.
Well, you can't. Well, here's the thing. The reason why they threw Desai overboard was because they thought they had something with Patricia being here as a part of the staff. Matt Patricia can't come back. You know what I mean? Like, he was terrible. He should not belong in the NFL anymore. He should not get a job anywhere at this point. Mr. Pencil behind his ear. You suck. But look, there might be some young defensive mind that would like to try to make an impact, right? Like Sean Desai, he wasn't getting jobs anywhere else.
Yeah, so, and that's fine. But then on the more important side, and the reason I say the more important side right now is because all the talent is on the offensive side of the ball. Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni have absolutely destroyed the quarterback and wasted a year of 2 star wide receivers, a star tight end, a fantastic offensive line.
Yeah.
And so then the question is, what offensive assistant would want to come in and try and fix it when you've got the biggest bozo who's going to meddle. I mean, Nick Sirianni.
Well, now here's the deal, right? So Nick Sirianni, if they keep him, right? If they keep him as head coach, they would have to hire an offensive coordinator that would have full control of the offense. And you just mentioned all those weapons. If I'm an offensive coordinator with a bright mind, I would want this job.
Yeah. Listen, my final point is you look at Shanahan, LaFleur, what do those guys do? They're the brain trust. We don't have a brain trust. And my thing is, if you don't fire him now, you're going to have to do it in October when they're inevitably 1-4, and the same stuff that we've been complaining about for the last, fine, 2 months, but realistically, what's been going on for the entire season. I mean, would you rather do it now when there's actually really good candidates out there?
Right.
You know you're eventually going to have to do it, or do you want to wait and then blow up the season next year? And I got to tell you, for the first time in my life, and I'm a rabid Eagles fan. I mean, I'm a guy that if they lose on Sunday, I am pissed until the next Sunday when they win. I didn't care about the game last night for the first time because I knew what was going to happen.
Right.
And honestly, I wasn't rooting against them. But by the time he took that safety, I'm like, burn it down.
Yeah, you're ready. You're ready for it to end, and I don't blame you. I think we all were. I think we were all waiting for it to end because we knew it was going to end, right? And so we didn't want to put ourselves through the pain of watching them lose not just another game, but losing a playoff game, which ended the season. And the way in which they lost was going to, start having us ask questions about who's going to be here, who's going to be gone. I said it last week. Nick Sirianni's only fired if they lose embarrassingly to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, that's what happened last night. They were embarrassed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the one way Nick Sirianni stays is, I guess, kind of the Brandon Staley thing from last year. Brandon Staley should have been fired after last season, right? I'm talking about the 2022-23 season. But they gave him one more shot to hire his offensive and defensive coordinator. And then they ultimately started losing to what Tim just said, when you inevitably start 1-4 or whatever, whatever the record was for the Chargers once they finally made the decision to fire Brandon Staley. Maybe that's how Sirianni stays here. But I don't think you can keep Sirianni and Brian Johnson and just get a new defensive coordinator. I don't know if you can keep Brian Johnson and get rid of Nick Sirianni and just get a new head coach here. Like, there has to be changes. You can't have the last 2 months of the season the way that you did and maintain your coaching staff. You can't, because you did not have an answer for the last 2 months of the season. There's the articles of players didn't know whose offense was it. Brian Johnson was calling plays, but then Nick Sirianni, in Tim McManus's article, Brian Johnson called a pass play against the Commanders earlier this year, and then Nick Sirianni overruled him and said, run the ball instead here. And then they ran the ball, and it didn't work. So it's like, all right, is Sirianni meddling too much? But how am I supposed to know that Brian Johnson himself is going to come up with the answers? I mean, he is in the – it's not like Nick Sirianni's game planning by himself. It's a collective effort. Now, he has final say. He is the head coach. But how could that entire room of Sirianni and Brian Johnson and the quarterback's coach and the wide receivers coach, everybody that's in, however, the janitor, whoever's in that room, right? How could they go into a game against the New York Giants 2 weeks ago and not have any plan against the blitz? How can they go into a game last night against Todd Bowles and not have a plan against the blitz? How can you do that?
Be asking that forever. I mean, this is a broken brain trust. It's the three, and this really comes down because they are the three figureheads of everything that happens. You want to throw Alex Tanney in there and get upset with the quarterback, fine. You want to get upset with the quarterback coach, you spend your day getting upset with the quarterback coach. I'll spend it talking about the three figureheads here. You got your head coach, your offensive coordinator, and your quarterback. Okay, the McManus story, obviously confirms the thought process that there was something broken between all of them.
Right.
But on top, now looking into that, if the players don't know Sirianni, Johnson, who's setting the play calls down, who you trying to talk with about making things work the right way, you could see all season long there's frustration with communication, frustration with what's happening with this team, and they don't know who's here, who's there, who's doing this, who's doing that. Johnson, this is what we deem this. You are the play caller, but Sirianni is going to have the opportunity to overrule you. So how much power do you really have? And then, by the way, Jalen Hurts is not thrilled with the direction of this offense. So at times throughout the game, he's going to, you know what? I'm taking this
improvise.
I'm taking this into my hands. I think this is just a broken group of the three of them. Like there needs to be change, and I think you can't change with the $250 million quarterback.
No, he stays.
And I don't think right now it's just easy as plug and play with a new OC. Like, I think at this point, you're looking
you have
at
to have an overhaul.
Head coach, offensive coordinator.
And defense coordinator.
Well, yeah, but that's been decided. Like that was decided. And to me, that's the point where when we go look back on this season, that's the point where I thought this team was cooked.
Yeah.
Where they make the decision to go away from
which ended up being a panic move.
Which in the moment was a panic move.
Yeah.
Which they panicked in the moment. And someone in the organization panicked. Again, that's the problem. Because that was the greatest showing of the chaos within that building. And since that point, you've had players talking about it. Well, it's the Hassan Reddick clip. Things that live in my head rent free. Him talking about it not being easy to adjust. Every single week.
Fletcher Cox saying that I'm scared when I see the mentality of this locker room right now. That was after the last Giants game.
Every single week, we've had one of the beats or someone in the press conferences talking about simplifying the defense.
Oh, yeah.
At some point, it's just this sheet of paper if you're simplifying it. Yeah. At some point, it's this, and it just says tackle on it.
Which they didn't do that.
They didn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, there is just a broken collective effort here, and this goes to the structure of the coaching staff, the structure of what they did offensively, and then the structure of the organization. Because ultimately, there is greater power being had. And that greater power seriously seemed to handicap the defense at the end of the season.
I mean, look, you went into the season with Reed Blankenship as your number one safety, and there is no way they evaluated him and said, this guy's a stud. It's probably because it was a cheap option, right? Undrafted, free agent, barely making any money. A guy that was able to make some plays, and you go, all right, we have this guy. Let's try to pair him with somebody. And all the pairings didn't work. Byard ended up being a colossal disappointment. Like I don't think anybody expected the tandem of Blankenship and somebody to remain the same. Like we thought at some point they would make a move. Fortunately, they made one that didn't work. And again, that's a Howie issue. I don't blame him for slaying Bradbury. I've said that since the jump. But obviously, the linebackers going into the season, the safeties going into the season, that wasn't going to be good enough. And it's something that we were concerned about before the season started. We didn't just make that up. We didn't just all of a sudden start talking about it once they started losing. Like, it's what we talked about going into the season. Now, real quick, I have odds for coaches for the Eagles, if not Nick Sirianni. Oh, boy. Take these with a grain of salt. It's from that Bet Online AG.
Yeah.
Which they're fun.
Yeah,
it was fun to do the props going into the Super Wildcard weekend.
Good to text you this weekend when I saw, Swift before they did the Tyreek Hill conversation.
I told you.
You were right.
And I was right about the Goff Stafford.
Yeah, no,
They did a split screen of them in their old uniforms.
You were a producer for a good long time.
Damn right, man. These are the next head coaches for the Eagles, if not Nick Sirianni. Again, take these with a grain of salt. Vrabel, the favorite, at -150. Belichick and Slowick, the offensive coordinator from the Houston Texans, tied at +400. Ben Johnson +500. Jim Harbaugh +900. Rex Ryan.
Wow.
At
Sexy Rexy.
At 1,600. Pete Carroll, who we've talked about is going to take like an advisory role with the Seahawks, +2,500. Jim Schwartz, 2,800. Jason Kelsey, 3,300. That's why I say take these with a grain of salt. And then, like, the one that actually makes sense, because I know he's going to get interviews, is Mike Kafka at +4,000.
They got Kafka behind
Jason Kelsey, Jim Schwartz, Pete Carroll, and Rex Ryan. Yeah.
I got to make a couple offshore calls right now.
Yeah. Those odds might change. Anyways. All right. We continue the conversation on a football Tuesday. Eagles season over. Football Tuesday. Our 12 o'clock hour brought to us by Ceres First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at ServiceFirstHVAC.com. Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A flat-out disgrace. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Jackson Hewitt Tax Services. Home of the Money Today guarantee. Get a tax refund advance loan at Jackson Hewitt now. No fee refund advance offered to eligible clients. Application required. Loans via public bank. Details at Jackson Hewitt.
Eagles gear on today. You know, I understand. You gotta love them even at their lowest points. I'm wearing all black today. It's the funeral show today. I can't go birds today. I can't. Yeah, I can't rock the gear. One thing though, the burning of the hats and I don't get that.
Dumbest thing in the world.
I don't get it. I just saw a video a couple commercial breaks ago. I wasn't going to bring it up, but then I saw Tyrone's shirt. A guy burning an Eagles hat and saying bleep you Sirianni. You know, all right, you have your opinion on Sirianni? I think he should be fired. But like the burning, like why do you burn your hat, man?
Sirianni's not seeing that.
Yeah, no.
You wasted your money. And oh, by the way, you know where that money ended up likely going?
The Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay,
Yeah.
So what did you prove here? That you could burn something? Congratulations. You did not invent fire. You did not invent how to take a video. You have shown absolutely nothing except you wasting money.
Now, speaking of fan actions, look, I know we were all frustrated yesterday. Did you see the guy at the stadium, Raymond James? Raymond James Stadium, not Raymond Dunn.
I saw the Fire Sirianni sign. I didn't see it.
No, that one was actually.
Yeah. I saw that. I mean, that was a timely cut there, too. Good work, ESPN production.
Yeah, dude, seriously. No, I just saw it tweeted out by Barstool not too long ago. Some ass in a Hassan Reddick jersey. He was sitting at the corner right where the tunnel was. And as Sirianni was walking off, he said some things, which, whatever, but then dumped popcorn or tried to dump popcorn on him. Come on, man. Like, come on, man. What?
When are we going to learn?
And that's something I understand you're frustrated. I am too. But, like, dude, like, that guy's a freaking human being, and you're dumping popcorn on him, throwing food at him like he's an animal. Like, come on. I hated it when somebody did it to Russell Westbrook. Remember that one?
You should hate it point blank.
Yeah, like, don't throw food at somebody because you're angry with it. This isn't medieval times. We have adapted a little bit. We've grown as a society since medieval times, I would think, right? Not really throwing rotten tomatoes at people anymore.
Like, as emotional as you are, as upset as you are.
Oh, you should have heard me yesterday. I was saying a lot of bad things. Thank God there were no kids.
The thing about me is when I get upset, I actually start to get quiet, and that's when you should start to actually get worried. When I stop talking,
okay.
Which is good for this industry and the fact that I always talk, but bad probably for the reaction thing. But I started to get quiet there. But as for like the emotional part of all this and the dumping the popcorn, think about your worst day at work. Or honestly, think about like the moments leading up to your boss about to tell you you're going to be fired.
Right.
The last thing you want is some bozo
throwing food
at you.
Yeah.
So please stop.
I just and then like what I found funny, not that there was anything funny about it, was the security guard that was on the field was like, "All right, dude," and started walking. He's like, "Oh, all right, I'm leaving. It's like, wait a minute. So you threw the food at the guy, and then you go, "All right, I got it off my chest. I'm good." Like, dude, come on, man. Apparently, he was arrested. Good. You know, I hope you're embarrassed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I hope you're embarrassed. Anybody that does something like that, I hope you're embarrassed and not going, "Yeah, bro, did you hear what I did at the game last night?
I got
man?
a barstool, bro.
I showed him." Like, come on, dude. All right. Let's get back to the phones. Talking about the Eagles. Malpractice from the coaching staff. How bad this defense was. And the many, many issues that this Eagles team has now moving forward. Let's go to Debbie in Scranton. Hello, Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Not so good. Listen, you got a lot of fans up here in the northeast corner of the state. We are like not just shocked, we're heartsick because I'll tell you, I personally would rather see a consistently mediocre season than go on this, roller coaster of going all the way up. You think you're going to keep going, and then all of a sudden it all keeps coming down. But anyway, it's just not a good thing. I don't know where the problem lies, but I will ask this: like, what? I'm not an expert on the Eagles. I'm but a 40-year plus fan, along with other people up here. How is it you make it to the pros and you can't tackle as good as some of the high schoolers that I see at the games around here. I don't get it.
Well, they were the best at what they did at their high school. They were the best at what they did at their collegiate program. They got drafted. But look, Debbie, I'm sure some of it may have also been business decisions yesterday. Like if they knew that they were losing, why go full effort trying to tackle somebody? You get what I'm saying? Like I think there were some people that knew that season was over yesterday. At least that's how it seemed from my television screen.
Well, who wants to see the season? This is our chance to not let the season end. I mean,
look, I'll go other side of the ball. Not that I want Jalen Hurts blocking people. What was that effort? When Kenny Gainwell inexplicably cut back, which he shouldn't have, but Jalen Hurts, he basically stuck his finger out. I was like, let me do my best.
No, how about the one when they missed tackle for the one guy just went like another 30 yards right into the end zone.
Yeah,
and
I mean there was a million plays yesterday, Debbie. There's a million plays, and I think it was a lack of effort thing. I think at one point they realized that this season's over, so there was a lack of effort. Now I will give the defensive line credit because in the third quarter they were getting to Baker Mayfield, which is something we hadn't seen in weeks or months with this team. But other than that, I mean, once they got into the secondary, like. I saw guys falling on the ground. It looked like they were attempting to make a tackle, which is what I said about Byard, and I appreciate the call. They'd be like, I think Byard yesterday made a lot of business decisions. I do. I saw Byard make it look like he made an attempt and not even come close. To the point where at one point, Troy Aikman was like, I don't even know what that was. It became comical. And again, let me make it clear before somebody, why do you want Hurts chop blocking? Dude, what was that?
Oh, it was terrible.
What?
Like I get like if it's week 7 against week 8 against the Commanders. All right, you don't lay it out there because long season. Hey man, you guys stink right, and like you guys are down bad in Tampa Bay. Lay the block. Okay,
well, this is a one-score game still, right? Because the safety then Kenny G goes back. Hold on, let me pull it up. I'm pretty sure this was the Kenneth Gainwell cuts back. Yep, lost the 6 yards. Then they get 10 yards to Goddard, and then the 14-yard run back for 14-yard safety.
You're down a score of what? How much time is left in the third quarter? Like you have a season or a quarter and change left in your season if you don't start.
You're down a touchdown.
Up. Yeah,
you're down a touchdown. I mean, it's the game is still very much in reach. The safety made it 18-9, right?
Yeah.
And hey, I'm just gonna say it. It was Cam Newton-esque. Tyrone's nodding. Remember Cam Newton not diving on the ball?
No, I remember it. I remember it vividly.
I love Jalen Hurts, the dude, right? I don't want him chop blocking, but whatever that was, I'm getting out of the way. This
chop blocking, a hand on the guy.
Right.
We talk all the time about how solid the lower base is there. I was able to knock guys
600
over.
pounds.
A little something.
Stick your left shoulder out. Something. I don't know if he hits that block. Kenneth Gainwell turns up field and scores a touchdown. But whatever that was, business decision. I'm not questioning the heart of Jalen Hurts. But that play right there, he wanted nothing to do with it. Now, Kenneth Gainwell should never have cut back. Cut back. Because, Kenny G, like, what are you doing, man? I don't know why he's trying to cut back. That's not who he is. I don't know why he's still on the team. That's another guy. I would not be upset the day Kenneth Gainwell's gone. He's the least of my worries today.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's so many other guys on this team I'm looking at to
yeah, but there's guys like Quez Watkins can't wait to not see him in an Eagles uniform ever again. Kenneth Gainwell can't wait. Nicholas Moreau can't wait to never see him in an Eagles uniform ever again. There's a lot of guys that I'm like almost rooting for the day. I'm sad that Jason Kelsey's retiring. I will not be sad when Quez Watkins is no longer with the Eagles.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you heard my pleas yesterday to just not have him involved in the slightest.
The over in receptions hit, but not the yards. Yards was what I had it at 14.5. He finished with 12. It went up to 17.5 during the program. Kenny G was half a yard short.
That's tough.
It's a tough day, man.
Listen.
It's because they didn't listen to us.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, we had the right game plan.
You texted me, and it was the truest thing in the world. Should have been a Bucks same game parlay.
Oh, yeah. No, I texted Ray that yesterday. I said, we made a mistake. We should have made a Buccaneers same game parlay. I mean, all these overs and all that's like, probably would have had a better chance. We fooled ourselves into thinking that we could. Let me say this. The worst financial decision I ever made in my life took place yesterday.
Worst?
Worst. And it was not betting something. It was not putting my life savings and Cooper's college fund, Buccaneers live line. The Eagles were never coming back and winning that game. When it was 16-9. I bet you the Eagles were probably still maybe a pick. I wasn't looking at the live line. I'll be honest. I'm watching a playoff game,
Yeah, I was not.
I wasn't doing in-game betting. I imagine when it was 16-9 and the Eagles had the ball at the end of the first half and were getting the ball back to start the second half, they were probably in-game still the favorite to win that game.
Maybe not the favorite, but definitely close enough where,
Worst financial decision in my life was not betting everything on the Buccaneers at that point. There was no way the Eagles were coming back. The second, when they go 3-and-out, that's something that's not going to be talked about much just because, the season is over. We're waiting for guys to be fired. The fact that they went 3-and-out to start the second half, that's inexcusable. Inexcusable to go 3-and-out to start the freaking second half of a game where you're down a touchdown. The fact that you're still down a touchdown is amazing. It is a freaking miracle that you're down just a touchdown to start the second half because the Buccaneers were dropping passes, broke a playoff record for most drop passes in a game. 1 yard loss was Swift. Pass incomplete deep to Quez. And then a 9-yard sack. That's how you started the second half. We came out of halftime and go, wow, man, jeez. Still in this ball game, believe it or not. And they went 3-and-out. Great halftime adjustments, guys. And it's perfect, right? They try to run the football. It doesn't work. They take a deep shot. And now it's 3rd and 11. They're like, oh, squat. We got to try to do something here. And they can't handle the blitz. It's a perfect story of the Eagles. Perfect story of the Eagles offense. Let's go to Rich in Jersey. What's up, Rich?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm so disappointed. I think Sirianni should be fired. It looked like he didn't even know what he was doing on the sideline at all. Like, he didn't have an answer.
No, he hasn't had an answer for 2 months, which is why he should be fired.
He should be fired. The defensive coordinator should be fired. Often, you gotta clean house. You cannot go into next year like this at all. I mean, now's the perfect time to do it. Like you said, there's tons of coaching positions out there, and I felt like the team gave up too. After they just I don't know. It's like they gave up when they were playing the Giants.
They 100% gave up against the Giants.
Yeah.
I didn't ask anybody that, but I 100% I just know it. I don't think they wanted to be out there to begin with, and then once Sidney Brown, AJ Brown go down, I don't think a single star wanted to still be out in that football game. So I do think they gave up against the Giants. Yesterday, look, it's a playoff game. You got to get up for it.
Yeah.
But they didn't. It was astonishing to me that they didn't.
Yeah.
Except for the defense. I want to give. I got to give. Thanks for the call, Rich. I got to give some guys on defense credit. At least in the second half, they got to Baker Mayfield. They were sacking him. They were stopping drives. The offense couldn't get anything going. If I told you, Ray, that at one point in the game yesterday, the Eagles would be losing and it wasn't because of the defense, would you have bought that?
Just because of how down I am on this team, they find a way. The way we talked about them the first 11 weeks of the season, they find a way to win. They found ways to lose. They found ways to be bad. They've put themselves in poor positions consistently. It's not the script I would have anticipated at all. I don't think I would have been fully I think it's going to be the offense that's totally the undoing here. Because remember, we were asking for, and the Tim McManus, he was with, I think it was when he was with the best show ever, talking about just want the defense to be mediocre.
Yeah,
just
all we're asking.
That's all we're asking for. Just don't be bad. Just be mediocre.
No.
And you know what?
I would have taken bad. They were They were the worst. I wanted it to not be the worst.
Well, I mean, for 4 drives there, they were perfectly fine. Gave your offense every shot.
Well, that's the thing. So the Bucs' first 4 drives all result in points, right? Field goal, touchdown, field goal, field goal. The fact that you actually kept them to 3 field goals, this is the bend but don't break. But like, all right, they kept them to 3 field goals, and then after that, punt, 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 and then the wheels fell off. 2 touchdowns, and the first touchdown was a 4-play, 62-yard drive. But they actually forced 3 straight punts. They kept the Eagles in the game. And the offense got nothing out of those 3 punts. Here's then the following drive for the Eagles. End of half, which I don't know what the hell they were doing at the end of the half. Here's your final drive of the first half. 9 yards to Kenny G. All right, doesn't get out of bounds though, so the clock's ticking. Then you 2nd and 1, you're just, I guess, hoping for a first down. This is what's amazing to me. 2nd and 1. That's the old school's not allowed. That's take a shot downfield play. It's 2nd and 1. If it's incomplete, all right, you have 3rd and 1. You should be able to pick up the first down. Push, whatever. 2nd and 1, they hand the ball off to Kenny G. And then, trying to do quick math here, 23 seconds tick off the clock. 23 seconds ticked off the clock after a 1-yard run. 1 yard. They went no huddle. And 23 seconds came off the clock after a 1-yard run. You know what that is? Not having a freaking plan. Not having a plan. Is that Nick Sirianni telling Brian Johnson, hey, run off enough clock, but hope to still get something going offensively? Or is that Brian Johnson just not having an idea? Like, this is what goes back to when they first hired him to be offensive coordinator. It was the right move, right? It was the right move. I don't think anybody should go back and say that was the wrong move. I think at the time it was the right move. But I remember saying on these airwaves, as much as I believe it's the right move, I don't know what he's going to do on 2nd and 6 in the third quarter. Like, we've never seen him call plays before in the NFL. We don't know. I don't know if this is some guy that knows to be 2-3 steps ahead. And so it's 2nd and 1, you call 1-yard run, and it takes you 23 seconds to come up with another play. And it's an incomplete pass. And then you get Devontae Smith for 13, another incomplete pass. Dallas Goedert for 2 yards. And then that's when I knew the next play. Quez Wide said at the beginning of the show. I knew it was going to be a bubble screen to Quez Watkins. Or to anybody. I didn't know it was going to be Watkins. I said it to Pat Egan at Barnaby's yesterday. You watch. Because what they'll do is they won't be conceding, but if they don't get the big first down, the clock will continue to run, and Tampa Bay might either call a timeout or let it go to halftime. And they let it go to halftime because, we got the ball to start the second half. And you go 3-0.
Well, it goes back to, I forget which game it was at this point, because all of these press conferences and
they're all the same.
Bleed together. But yeah. Talking about, the 3 different things we're managing in that 4-minute offense. You know, where the kick line, all those different things. That to me, that's what this screams.
That was Arizona.
That was Arizona. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they kicked the field goal.
The second to last drive, they kicked the field goal, and they allowed the Cardinals to go right downfield and score a touchdown because the defense was terrible, but they didn't even have that in the back of their mind. And, it was kick line, 4-minute offense.
Yeah,
all this kind of crap.
What they're managing there at that moment. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, just love for you to attack, try and make something happen here.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there was no sense of urgency yesterday. It was the playoffs. Number 1, you lose, you go home. Number 2, all right, the defense forced a punt that time, but before they then forced 2 more after that. But you didn't know that was going to continue. Before that, the Buccaneers scored points on their first 4 drives, and your offense has barely done anything up until that point. They had 9 points, but it was a deep shot to Devontae Smith that pretty much set it up with the 55-yard pass. It's not like your offense is really doing all that much up until that point, and yet there was no sense of urgency. I think if you put truth serum into Nick Sirianni, it was we were playing it conservatively, and we had the ball to start the second half. And if we don't get points, okay, the Buccaneers, they can't get points if we kind of bleed the clock. And if we score a touchdown to start the second half, it's a 16-16 football game. That's probably what was going through his mind. And that's probably not the right way to do it, which clearly it wasn't. 610-632-0975. That's the number to climb in. We will continue the conversation. You know what? I got time for. Let me take another call. Let's go to Tom on the cell. Hey, Tom, what's up?
Not much, man. Am I going to get a little
Oh, what's up, Tom? How you doing?
Am I going to get a little time, bro?
I got you.
Hey, man, this is a tough call to make, man. You know, I'm up all night. I don't feel well. I'm sick as hell. But I wanted to make it, especially to you. I really appreciate you and everyone there at the Fanatic. I mean, everybody that does what you do in that market, because you love what you do, but then you go to work for it to make a living, and then you wear it, and then you wear it, and then you wear it, and then you got to wear it some more. And I know it's not easy, and I appreciate it, for real.
Look, as I said earlier, I am like you. I'm just blessed to be behind a microphone. But I can't escape it. I'm back here tomorrow, doing this, continuing the conversation tomorrow.
Man, I love it. I'll tell you, and I appreciate it. And the deal is, last night when they were done, I thought you could have bet the house. After they missed the push, or whatever the hell you want to call it, the 2-point conversion. After that, it was basically, it never got started. I mean, and two, Hurts. Let me just go ahead. I want to try to cover this if I can. Hurts, I came on here and admitted that I was wrong about him. Last night, he just in turn says that play down by the goal line, he does not throw a block there. Now, that made me very, very upset, okay, that he didn't. What's he in the weight room for 4 or 5 hours a day for? Hey, man, you're too good to throw a block. I don't know what the hell's going on with you, but if that is not worse, the next play, the cardinal sin in my book, when I was done with Wentz, he gets sacked in the end zone.
14 yards. He was on the 14-yard line, dude. I appreciate the call. He was on the 14-yard line. He ran back 14-plus yards. Oh, God. Once more, I wasn't expecting Jalen Hurts to block whoever the tackler was like Lane Johnson would, right? My man, you got to put a little bit of effort into it. Because who knows? If you do that, I don't think Kenneth Gainwell turns upfield and scores a touchdown. But maybe he gets back to the line of scrimmage. And now it's more of a manageable third down. Or no, because then second down. They actually did get a 10-yard gain the next play to Goddard, but maybe that 10-yard gain is a first down. Still got another hour of this, right, Ray?
Yep.
Which is why I hate the old adage of, you guys like it when they lose. Nope. No, this isn't fun for me, man. I'm Andrew Salchunas. It's the Midday Show right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The disaster is over. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Jackson Hewitt Tax Services. Home of the money today. Guarantee. Get a tax refund advance loan at Jackson Hewitt now. No fee refund advance offered to eligible clients. Application required. Loans by Republic Bank. Details at jacksonhewitt.com. The Birds were embarrassed on Wild Card Weekend. The Eagles lose 32-9 to the Buccaneers. It sucked. For all the conversation about this team flipping a switch in the postseason, this team showed the same flaws that sunk them throughout the end of the regular season. The offense couldn't deal with the blitz and had zero rhythm, while the defense couldn't make a tackle and allowed 30-plus points for the fifth time in 8 games. Now the fallout. Nick Sirianni and this coaching staff's future is still to be decided. He addressed his future after the game.
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the guys. Again, there's a lot of guys in that locker room, all the guys in that locker room, every single one of them that put their heart and soul into this. I'm not worried about me.
In the end, Sirianni's squad lost 6 of its last 7 games and loses in Tampa Bay in the postseason in the Wild Card Weekend, much like his first Philadelphia team. On top of the disaster, ESPN's Adam Schefter is reporting that Eagles center and future Hall of Famer Jason Kelce is expected to retire. The 76ers and Flyers both won on Monday, so that's great. 76ers return to action tonight against Denver Nuggets at 7:30. You're the live call right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Keep it locked here for the latest news and information. I'm Ray Dunn, the home for the Sixers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Philly Hot Stove Show.
Defense couldn't tackle. Ultimately, it was the sum of the city's fears in Tampa Bay. The Eagles did not score in the second half and struggled against the blitz once again. Sirianni was asked post-game how he felt Jalen Hurts dealt with the blitz.
Hey, I mean, he scored 9 points. So how do I think the better way to say that is how do you think the coaching staff and the players handled the blitz tonight? Because it's not just on one person. We didn't do a good enough job. It starts with me, being able to put them in the right positions to help them make plays. Tried some different things. Hats off to them. They had a good game.
I've been hearing this for months.
We didn't coach or play well enough tonight.
Of course, the question then arises about the future of Sirianni and his coaching staff. Here's his answer on that.
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the guys. Again, there's a lot of guys in that locker room, all the guys in that locker room, every single one of them that put their heart and soul into this. I'm not worried about me. I'm not worried. I'm you know, as the head coach, I'm just trying to be there for our guys and our staff right now.
As for some of the Eagles' core players, Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson expressed their desire to return next season. However, ESPN's Adam Schefter is reporting that Jason Kelce is expected to retire. Keep it locked here for all the latest Birds news and information. I'm Ray Dunn, your home for continuing coverage of the Birds as we deal with the fallout of their loss in the NFL wildcard round. 97.5, The Fanatic.
The Birds season is over. Plenty of questions about what's next for the organization, and we are talking about it with you. Now, Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Yeah, I love hearing Nick Sirianni over and over and over and over and over again for the past 2 months about how, you know, we got to do a better job and got to get guys in the right position. It starts with me. The fact that you didn't have an answer for a blitz against the team that you played 2 weeks prior, and I'm not even talking about last night. I'm talking about the Giants game in Week 18. You did not have a plan in place to go up against that blitz that you knew was coming from that defensive coordinator who is known for bringing pressure, and you just played them 2 weeks earlier. 2 weeks earlier, and you had no plan. And then yesterday, you knew that you were going up against a guy who was historic for bringing pressure. Historic. And you had no plan for it. None. Or at least a plan that was just freaking dumb and did nothing. We had the call earlier today. I seriously wonder, is Jalen Hurts healthy? We had the call earlier today saying, how come Jalen Hurts didn't run more yesterday? I thought it was a lock day for Hurts to do a couple quarterback draws against that kind of pressure, right? Like, that makes sense. Nope. I'm guessing it has something to do with health, but again, it was playoffs, so go all out. And there was the one run where he looked all right, but remember, there's the penalties negated it. He got hit in the head. And then there was the hold on Juergens, who just, again, had a freaking terrible game yesterday. A couple illegal man upfield penalties, and they can't do any of that stuff right. That's one of my biggest issues with Sirianni. Because he's supposed to be this to the very last detail guy. Pick plays, they can't run them. How many times illegal man upfield? I swear to God, they must lead the league in it. I don't know if I can find that somewhere. I don't know if there's a next-gen stats about individual penalties. I swear, they must lead the league in it. Between the offensive pass interferences on attempted pick plays and then the illegal man downfield, because they run these plays and guys they're never in the right position. Now, something to keep an eye on, as we have been keeping an eye on this. So, Josina Anderson. We read the tweet. Was it yesterday we read the tweet, or was it Friday? I forget when it was.
I think Friday.
So the tweet from January 1st that Josina Anderson put out. Change is circling the NFC East. One potential move would be unexpected. Now, trip down memory lane, we knew that Ron Rivera was going to be fired, so there was going to be a change. We knew that there was going to be a change with the Commanders. Brian Dable, that's still Ray, you put it best on Friday. Like, that would have happened already because they were eliminated from the playoffs. But on January 1st, that was the final week of the regular season, right?
That was following the loss to the Cardinals.
They lost on New Year's Eve. That's right. So it could have been later that day. It could have been January 2nd where Dable was fired. So he has not been fired. I don't think she put out that tweet about Wink Martindale, right? I don't think she put out that tweet about the coordinators with the Commanders. Basically, that tweet was about two teams, the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. And she kind of confirmed that on January 14th, 13 days later, 2 days ago, still relevant through the game's Monday. ... Now, the Cowboys played Saturday?
Sunday.
They played Sunday. Okay, so this tweet was Saturday. So through Monday, that meant the Sunday game and the Monday game. Cowboys and Eagles. So she said still relevant through the game's Monday. ... She then put out a quote tweet last night to that still relevant through the Monday game tweet with more ... That was at 10:32 last night. 13 hours ago, she put out a tweet. Congrats to Jason Lick, Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and the Bucks. Alternately, the look on Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie's face is worth 1,000 words, and it's the photos of him in his box. Seems like she's pointing more so for the Eagles. So then today, she put out like a tweet about the Raiders' head coaching job, right, and the interviews that are being done. And some guy named Bobby responded, "Hi, Josina, what are you hearing about Dallas?" To which she responded with, "Nothing is going on there at this present moment, that is. You guys can chill out for the time being at least." And multiple ... dots after that. But it almost seemed like she was like, yeah, hold on, Dallas fans. To me, these tweets all read about the Eagles. That's what I'm picking up through all this. If we're reading between the lines. And let's face it, there's big names out there. Whether you want Belichick or not, he's out there. Whether you want Vrabel or not, he's out there. Whether you want Jim Harbaugh or not, he's out there. If Mike Tomlin goes, he's out there. 4 huge names. Huge names. Forget your opinion on any of it. Huge names. And then, of course, the coordinators that are going to be getting interviewed for head coaching jobs. Change is coming, Ray. Change is coming. Let's go to Josh in Tennessee. Josh, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How you doing, Josh?
Hey, pretty good. So, couple points I wanted to bring up. I really think it goes back. I mean, we've been talking about this all season. The Eagles sneak out a win against the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and then Week 12 was really when I think it all really started to go downhill. We're losing 31-14 going into the fourth. I'm trimming the tree with the fiance, and all of a sudden we're winning the game in overtime by the skin of our teeth.
The Bills game you're talking about.
Yeah, Bills game, Week 12. So there, we sneak by them. Then we lose it, complete control to the 49ers. So you're looking at the coach then. You're looking at Sirianni. But at some point, you got to blame the players, too. I've never seen a professional sports team throw in the towel like those guys did last night. I mean, that's not the mentality of the city, of the players. It's embarrassing.
So it's funny, Josh. At the end of the pregame show yesterday, I asked Pat Egan, who does a tremendous job with the John Kincaid show. I asked him a question, and it's something that I will probably end up talking about later this week or next week. But because you brought it up, I'll bring it up. What I said yesterday. Why is it so much on the coach? Now, that doesn't mean I'm taking away blame from Sirianni, Brian Johnson, Matt Patricia, Sean Desai, Howie Roseman.
Right.
But it just seems like let's face it, the players were freaking miserable for 2 months now.
Yeah. I mean, you saw it. You saw it on their faces. Jalen Hurts didn't have that swagger that he usually comes out with. Now, is he going to be more hurt than what we really know as the news comes out throughout the postseason? But there's just something there that, if Nick doesn't stay around or if he does stay around, I think it's going to happen eventually. He's not our guy, so might as well just cut ties now. And like you said, there's 3-4 huge names out there. We got options, but it's just not what we're used to seeing, and it's really disappointing to see this collapse that happened this year.
Yeah, it really is, and everybody's to blame for it, Josh, and I appreciate the call. Like, I know, look, when you lose last night, we talk about firing somebody, and as Bob Cooney said during the pregame show yesterday, you don't fire a quarterback. You don't fire you might be able to cut a player down the road, but when you have Jalen Hurts getting paid $250 million, it's not, all right, let's move on from Hurts to get Nick Sirianni, his guy, right? Like, No, it's all right. Let's get the guy for Jalen Hurts. But I do find it surprising that I feel like we barely talk about the players. I brought up body language a lot the last couple of weeks. When they run through you, the 49ers players during pregame, and I didn't want to make too much of it. Remember we had a couple guys tweet in and call in and say that the Eagles were soft. And you look back to that and you go, what? And then was it the first Giants game or the second Giants game where the guy leaped over the line and went helmet to helmet with Hurts and nobody, not an offensive lineman, not a receiver, not a tight end. I didn't see a coach storm out on the field. The guy took a straight up cheap shot on Jalen Hurts. And there was no retaliation. What is that? It just seemed like a team that was just trying to get to the end at that point. I swear I saw business decisions on the field yesterday. But that's that. I mean, I feel like we leave the players off the hook a lot too, because of how much we dislike the coaching staff. I understand that, but man, AJ Brown had to have a players only meeting a couple weeks ago and talk about trusting the coaches more. Do we leave the players off the hook a little bit too much, Ray?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This seems like a group of 2009 Cole Hamels right now. Like, hey, I'm just excited for this to end.
Yeah, we were there last year on the media tour and all that kind of stuff, which you do you. Like, I'm not complaining about that. Like, do your second Christmas album. I don't care. Yeah, I got a guy tweeted at me, this is what happens when you start getting popular. Like, no, that's not it. But, it seemed like the players weren't into it, and not just last night, like for a while now. And I'll compare it to hockey. How many times do you hear like the hockey head coach that gets fired like a week into the season because they lost it. The voice is no longer being heard in the locker room. How come the players in there are blamed? It's a week into the season. Like, get your head out of your ass. You know what I mean? Like, it's a week into the season. You ignored him since camp? Come on. It seemed like a lot of the Eagles players checked out a while ago, too. Now, that goes to Sirianni and his losing of the locker room. But I feel like we don't blame players for it, ever.
Yeah, this team...
You played a playoff game last night.
Again, we continue to look back at where was the moment. Like, the idea that they were asking who these guys are, that where is this team going to go? Like, I've seen teams go one way or the other. I think it was the Fletcher Cox conversation. He wasn't sure which way it was going to go. Like, it seemed like this was a team that had its doubts about itself, got crushed by the 49ers, went down to Dallas, saw themselves lose that game. We're like, okay, well, we were right. We're not the team we were. Oh, well, I don't see this getting much better. I don't see us figuring this one out. And then the sense of relief for some of them, when on the defensive side at least, when they make the coaching change. All right, let's see what works. Well, never mind.
This one's not working, and now
we lost to Drew Lock.
If this isn't going to work, what are we going to do now? So it stinks.
Yeah, I was like, oh, all right, let's get it all together for Christmas Day against the Giants. And even when it was good, it ended up being bad by the end of the game.
Yeah, you're up 20-3, and you barely held on.
Right, and it's like, okay.
If Tommy DeVito doesn't start that game, you might have lost that game too.
Okay, so
nothing tells me that they could have won that game.
We are really not the team that we thought we were. All right, this is over. Like, we're not. We know. Like, I don't know. I hate to think that mentality set in, but it certainly feels like there was a bit of it.
It seemed like it yesterday from a lot of guys. Let's go to Joe in the cell. Joe, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey guys, so Jalen Hurts. We lost all these games that we lost. I don't think he got a complete pass, but he was horrible. And he had one good year. We gave him $250 million. And is it too much to ask for him to win a game? Put the team on.
No, it's not too much to ask. It is not too much to ask. He did not play well yesterday. I do think that they put him in a terrible position, Joe. Like, I do. Like, how do you not have a plan to go to beat the blitz, right? Other than, hey, Jalen, run for your life.
Well, wait a second. I'm Sirianni clearly was out, is in over his head as a head coach. But, we gave him A.J. Brown. we gave him Devontae Smith. The offensive line is superior. He has never in his career had to play behind inferior talent. And don't forget, he got benched for Tua, who might have been the only other quarterback that played as bad as him this weekend. I mean, both of them were an embarrassment. We gave him all this money. He needs to win a game. I don't want to bring up Carson Wentz, but he won 4 games with Greg Ward and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to get us into the playoffs. I want one of those games. And last night, to lose is fine. But you knew it after the second play when there was a guy running free in the middle. You knew it, that it was over. It's an embarrassment. I don't mind losing, but this is ridiculous. Like, you knew we were done before they even flipped the coin.
Oh, absolutely, Joe. I mean, when the Bucks were up 3-0, I texted Ray, "Oh my God, the vibes here are terrible." Like, because we all kind of knew it, and that was 3-0.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. I'm like, I don't know. He has to get fired, and I don't want you. What are the odds of the guy takes the team to the Super Bowl, is within a field goal of winning, and the next year he's going to get fired?
Well, because but here's the thing. Like, for people that point that out, and like, Joe, I appreciate the call, man. For people that point that out as a reason why they should not fire Nick Sirianni, the collapse was historic. 1989 Jets, I think that's what it was, right? We had not seen a team with 10 wins through 11 weeks, or 12 weeks because of the bye. 10 wins through 11 games. Not finished with more than 11 wins since the 1989 New York Jets. This was a historic collapse. So for those of you who are out there, and it's cool. I'm not saying like you're wrong. But for those of you who are out there that keep on pointing out the whole 3 straight years in the playoffs, well, historic collapse, embarrassing defeat to the Buccaneers. And if I go to year 1, I know I was the ass face. I was the guy that said they didn't belong in the playoffs. They benefited from playing backup quarterbacks because teams were riddled with COVID that year. I gave Nick Sirianni the credit for passing over the play-calling duties to Shane Steichen. But all they did was run the football like 40 times a game. And they played Mike Glennon, right? He was a Giants. They played 2 Giants quarterbacks. Glennon started one, and some other loser started the other. Like, they played COVID-ridden teams in order to get to the playoffs. And then again, I was the ass face going into that first round against the Buccaneers, where I said, well, they're not going to win. Like, they're playing a real team this week. And they lost. And I know they scored a late touchdown to make it seem like they were in the ball game, but they weren't. So, like, yeah, they did make the playoffs 3 straight years under Sirianni. That's tremendous. They did benefit from a COVID-ridden schedule in year 1. And this year, they had a historic collapse. The worst of my lifetime, the worst of a lot of your lifetimes, the worst in Philadelphia since 1964, and the worst in the NFL since 1989. That can't be ignored just because he made the playoffs 3 straight years. That can't be ignored. They collapsed at a historic rate. The number to climb in is 610-632-0975. We got 1 segment left. You know, I hope any of this show has helped you. I hope, whatever. By the way, I had a guy earlier today, speaking about tweets earlier. I had a Cowboys fan tweeting at me earlier. Yeah, listen, dude. You can't hurt me. He sent me a meme. On a quiet night in Dallas, you can hear eagles crying. Well, first off, the reason why it's quiet in Dallas is because your team also lost. And second of all, like, I knew my team wasn't going on a run. You expected a Super Bowl appearance. Or at least an NFC Championship game. I just was hoping at least a first-round victory so that we could have 1 more week of Eagles football. Yeah, you can't hurt me now. All right. 1 segment left on this Football Tuesday. Our 1 o'clock hour brought to us by Ferguson HVAC Line, Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors for equipment, parts, and supplies for your heating and cooling job. Visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bed-Salem, King of Prussia, Pensacola, or Westchester. Today, I'm Andrew Salchunas. This is the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
them out, as they will continue to talk about the misery that is from the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, there's a tweet out there that went viral yesterday. I'm not going to read the guy's handle because it's inappropriate, but it's a photo of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jason Kelce saying, "Jalen, please step up. We're getting our ass kicked." And then it's Hurts smiling. And underneath it says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. We do not lose. We only learn." So I basically tortured myself on the way in today. So last night, when I was at Barnaby's, the 50-minute drive back to my house turned out to be like an hour and 20 because of the snow, right? And obviously the season ended, so it's not like Sirianni was quick to the podium. As soon as I pulled it in the driveway, Sirianni got to the podium when I was listening to Tom and Connor on the postgame show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And I said, I'm not going to do this to myself. It's after midnight. Cooper's going to be up in a couple hours. I should just probably go to bed. So I listened to them both, Sirianni and Hurts, on my drive in today. Ray, I'm not joking. I was saying stuff to Sirianni as if we were having a conversation. The nonsense that he was spewing during his press conference yesterday was just driving me insane. And then the same with Hurts. It's the same thing. And Hurts, one of the things that really bothered me was he was, this is a learning experience. It wasn't our time or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be that deep, man. Just, you lost the game. You hope you can get better from it. You really like the guys in this room. Like, just, it doesn't have to always be that deep, man. It really doesn't. Not everything has to be this T-shirt quality quote. Like, just say you're upset. You wish you played better, which he did. Like, he did say that kind of stuff. Like, he did drop in it starts with me. But, man, just not everything has to be so deep. And that's what happens. When you start losing games, like, you start getting annoyed about other things. And Jeff McClain, his article that came out yesterday was once again about Jalen Hurts and how he handles himself around, his teammates in the locker room. And how maybe he needs to change his personality a little bit. And I know people, like, once again, Tim McManus and Jeff McClain getting crushed the way they did yesterday was ridiculous. Look, the team showed you exactly who they were yesterday. A team that has given up, a team that doesn't believe in their leadership in Nick Sirianni, a team that doesn't believe in Matt Patricia and Sean Desai. Maybe they should have believed in Sean Desai. A team that doesn't believe in Brian Johnson. And there probably are some guys that are annoyed with Jalen Hurts and his, his deep words, right, as a wise man. But anyways, once you start losing a lot of games, everything starts to get annoying. And I don't know why I tortured myself on my drive in. I got nothing from it. There's a reason why I didn't ask you to play any audio today. Like, what was I going to play? I was just going to get angry at Nick Sirianni say we didn't do a good job against the blitz. I know that. I saw it. I saw you not do a good job against the blitz in a game where you all knew the blitz was coming. Ridiculous. Let's go to Philly J in D.C. What's up, Philly J?
How you doing, Andrew?
What's up, man?
Yeah, first of all, it was the I used to have a football encyclopedia. I know the team you talking about. It was the '86 Jets. They were 10-1.
86. Okay. I have a couple of years off.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, they won their first round playoff game.
Oh, so they actually did better. So their collapse still ended with more playoff wins than the Eagles' collapse. So you could say the Eagles was worse.
Yeah. But like, I'm not mad. You know what I'm saying? Like. All on Twitter and stuff like that. We knew they was going. I knew they was going to get their behinds whipped by Tampa Bay. I just didn't see no way that they was going to win that game. Also, I don't trust the Eagles front office to evaluate themselves well. They're a front office that has to see it on the field, and they see yesterday how bad they played. So hopefully changes are coming. At first, I was against firing Nick Sirianni But the more I think about it, I do kind of want him fired, mainly for the simple fact that I want a coach in here who has a specialty in something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, he's supposed to
Kyle
be. He's
Shanahan-
supposed to be a bright offensive mind.
Yeah, but like remember the first year, y'all, he didn't call plays. I want somebody like under the Shanahan tree, where you ain't got to worry about the offensive coordinator leaving and your offense falling apart because your head coach is the brain mastermind guy. I think that's where the NFL was going. I think that's where it needs to go. Look at the Houston Texans right now, right? If I was a Houston Texans fan, I would be terrified that their offensive coordinator, he's gone after this year, which is 1 year working with my rookie quarterback.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And at some point, I think it doesn't always work. The Atlanta Falcons, Arthur Smith was an offensive guy. He called plays, and he didn't make the playoffs 3 straight years. But I'd rather have a coach of that type of mold where we don't have to worry about losing our spectacular offensive coordinator. Remember after the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, that high-powered offense came back the next year. Frank Reich was gone. Offense wasn't the same.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And now I also hate the Colts, by the way, because it's twice that they took our OC. And then it happens last year with Shane Steichen. You know what I'm saying? There's no way that Brian Johnson can come back. The guy doesn't like running the ball. Swift had 130-some yards rushing the first game.
The last time. And oh, by the way, his first 2 carries weren't bad yesterday, and then they completely went away from him. Thanks for the call, Jay. I appreciate it. Now they were losing, but they were losing by a touchdown. Now I know ultimately he only averaged 3 yards per carry, something like that. It wasn't great, but I just my biggest issue was those 2 3rd and 2s. It's 3rd and 2, and you're Mr. Sirianni. Oh, it's 1st and 9 every time, and you throw 2 short routes, you end up being incomplete, and then you got to punt both times.
I think one of them was Hurts call, they said afterwards. So there we go back to the power
improvising,
power struggle.
and that's fine. He reads the defense like he's allowed to do that, but it just seems like he's always wrong now all of a sudden, except for that one play against the Kansas City Chiefs with Devontae Smith downfield. But that also goes back to the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach grilling into Jalen Hurts what he should do if things aren't going well. And that goes back to the DiFilippo and Wentz thing. All reports are they didn't see eye to eye. However, clearly Wentz had his best season that year. Did my eyes deceive me?
No, I don't think so.
Hey, Dad.
Hello, son.
What's
you
up?
knew I was going to call you today.
I actually didn't, but I'm glad that you did because you deserve to get stuff off your chest.
It's been pounding on my chest for weeks now, and I got to get it all out.
I'm adopted.
Ready? No. Well, I'm not quite sure, but no. Anyway, I fired Sirianni.
All right.
He looked like he was a deer's eyes in headlights. He had no clue what he was doing. 2, fire the coordinators, both. So you have to get a whole new coaching staff for the most part. So head coach and the coordinator.
Yeah, they're all gone.
They're all gone. 3, you got to purge the defense. I know Cox is going to probably retire. I know the other guy's going to retire. But that whole secondary,
You didn't like the tackles yesterday?
I did not.
No.
I did not.
Interesting.
That was 2-hand touch, and they still get him down. That was 2-hand touch yesterday.
Now I got to ask, what was it like at the Elks yesterday in Brigantine?
Everybody was saying, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. And it was awful.
Hold on. Another follow-up. As the great journalist that I am, did you lead the Elks in the fight song when they made it 16-9?
I was still there. I actually convinced everybody to sing the fight song after they scored the touchdown. Okay?
Yep. As you should. It's a one-score game.
We sang the fight song after that touchdown. But after halftime, especially into the third quarter. We saw what was going on. It was emptying out. When I left, there was 3 people left at the end. It was awful.
Yeah. That sucked yesterday. It was it was not fun, and there's gonna be change. Now, do you want Belichick?
Gotta be.
I need your opinion on this. Do you want Belichick?
No. No. I need somebody fresh. I need somebody energetic. I need somebody creative. I don't want a 72-year-old. And also,
that's ageism.
I don't want him conflicting with Lurie or Howie, because they're not going to get along. Those egos are so big. It's like another Chip Kelly coming in.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
All right. Well, that was a great call, Dad.
Well, I'm not done yet.
Well, I got to go. I'm going to get yelled at by my boss. Do you want your son getting fired?
I do not.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call. Love you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
There he is. Dad. He has all the answers, Ray.
He does.
Head coach fired. Coordinator's fired. Turnover on defense. I give him credit for still mustering up the fight song at the Elks.
Yeah, honestly, it was a great call.
You don't have to play
no notes. No notes on that one. He placated me.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He and I should talk about the whole Billy B situation. Is that going away?
Yeah, no. The Bill Belichick conversation is going to continue.
Oh yeah.
And then whatever happened, like, look, there's the reaction to if they hire him and if they don't. And if they don't hire him, it's going to come down to, did Howie Roseman not want him in here? And then there's going to be the conversation about Howie Roseman having his nose up in the air and being the smartest man in the room again, which is something that he had an issue with the last time they were in the Super Bowl.
And here we go.
Yeah, nonstop. So you good call?
Great call. No notes on that one. Listen, I liked Mr. Chunas. The one thing I do know is that opens the door. Last time we had Mr. Chunas call, there was another father of the program that followed up.
Oh,
so,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Your dad called.
We already had our conversation this morning. That was my drive in today. We had our debrief because it was late last night at work. And I was like, I don't have much for you other than, this is a disaster. And we pretty much, what the conversation you just had was pretty much how the conversation went.
I'll be seeing my parents this weekend. Gonna be heading down for the weekend. I haven't been done the weekend trip down to Brigantine in a while. I imagine we'll be talking more about the Eagles.
Your Sunday's freed up?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I was like, all right, guys, just so you know, I'll probably have to leave the house early Sunday to get to wherever we're doing pregame. If the Eagles win, I didn't say when they win. I said if they win. Because we knew they were playing Sunday because the NFL wasn't going to have them play Monday and then Saturday. So we knew they were going to play Sunday. I could take my dandy old time Sunday now. Man. Oh, dude, I'm glad he called. Even though my dad, I'm not talking about my dad. I'm glad he called, though, my father. I'm glad he got some stuff off his chest. He's not in the running for Call of the Year.
Hey, whoa.
Not yet. Well, you know how Embiid has to play a certain amount of games to qualify? I don't know if he's going to I don't think he's going to reach the amount of calls to qualify.
I'll start the tally count on Mr. Chunas' calls this year. We're at 1.
This is a very important call because this was a task call. Because this man was the only reason why I was somewhat fired up. Because he brought the passion, he brought the Go Birds, he brought the energy, and it was a beacon of light that we needed, I think. But we said when they lose, we would need to hear from them. Because I need to know if he can play, both sides of the ball here and not just be all pom-poms. It's a big call for Ray in Dover. What up, Ray?
What's up, fellas?
What's up, man?
Listen, man, me being optimistic and stuff is just, me being a homer, but I'm a football fan first.
Absolutely.
I was just trying to keep.
And I appreciated what you brought to the table because we needed it. I think the whole city needed it. And I'll be honest, Ray, after you called, I think more people called in. Somebody they were waiting for that first person to do it. So you broke the ice for people yesterday, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, but honestly, I was just really amazed that I did not see an adjustment to the blitz. Every play, you drop Hurts back, he's looking to the outsides. nothing to the middle.
Man, not just an adjustment, right? The game plan. Like, how did you not know?
Exactly.
How did you not know that going in?
Exactly. Like me personally, I have a 13-year-old son, and we play Madden a lot, and I like to blitz a lot. And when I start blitzing the hell out of him, he throws screen passes at me and eats me alive. You know, because he lets everybody come in, and when they come in, he hits it right to the middle of the field on whatever kind of screen pass he throws at me. And then I got to make my adjustments, and then he'll start running the ball down my throat or get me deep, because you can no longer stuff the box when you show that I'm going to settle with these middle of the field passes. And for as bad as the defense played, they actually kept us in the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, the Buccaneers score on their first 4 drives, and then the next 3, you force 3 straight punts. The defense actually deserves credit, which is why I said to Ray earlier, if I told you that at one point in the game, the reason why you were losing was because of the offense and not because of the defense, like, that would surprise me. And yesterday, I'm watching this game, and I'm going, oh, my God, they just need to score a freaking touchdown. But they make it so difficult, Ray, and I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. They don't make it just look difficult to score touchdowns. They make it look difficult to get a first down. They're scratching and clawing their way for 10 yards.
Yeah. You know when I knew it was over? The score still wasn't out of hand. We forced the punt, and Britton Covey muffed it.
Yeah.
I knew it was over. I said, these guys don't even want to play. These guys don't want to play. You could tell they're not getting the right angles. They don't want to step in front of ball carriers. They're not making the right tackles. Jalen Hurts don't want to run the right way.
The tackling thing is amazing to me, Ray, and I appreciate the call, dude. You followed through. He's still in the right. I mean, he's at minus 150 right now for Call of the Year. I know it's still only January, but you got to put out the odds at some point. One of the things that amazed me, I don't know if we have it. Do you have his answer on the lack of tackling from yesterday, Sirianni? I didn't want to play any audio today because all of it's just going to piss me off. But, you know, obviously Sirianni was asked about the lack of tackling. And just remember the last couple of weeks, he kept on pointing out the whole, you know, we're actually top 3 in the league in missed tackle rate. We're actually doing a good job at wrapping. It's okay if we don't have it. So, at one point in the press conference yesterday, post game, he was asked about the lack of tackling, and he just did the whole, you know, it starts with me. We got to find new drills, right? We'll try to figure that out during the offseason. You have to understand, like, you know, we're not tackling in practice this late in the year. Like, no team is. I get that. No team is. You're right. I don't expect teams to be running Oklahoma drills in November, December, January. I'm not expecting that. But why is it that your team has like the worst attempts at tackling? I watched a lot of football this weekend, as did you, Ray. There's missed tackles all across the league. I get that. Guys aren't wrapping up the way that they used to. But not to the point where the main talking point in last night's broadcast was missed tackles. And I know that happens occasionally, but it's been happening since that Niners game. And yet he'll be a Sirianni, I'm trying to say this professionally, will get on his high horse and be like, well, our tackle rate, I understand he's going to have his guys back, but, yo, dude, this has been a problem for 2 months. A lot of things have been problems for 2 months. Many things. Tackling. Not being able to play up against the blitz. Middle of the field just being wide open. Third down conversion rate for opposing teams. You starting drive, 2nd and 8, 3rd and 8. Remember we did that exercise we ran through. I forget which game it was. Might have been the Commanders game. All the 2nd and longs. 50%. It ended up being like 47% of their second downs were 2nd and 7 or longer. They put themselves in a bad position. That's 2 months ago. It never changed. That's why you need to fire the head coach. That's why you need to have a complete coaching overhaul. And I'm not trying to just do the loud yelling and screaming, fire the coach to try to get reaction. No, like I want my football team to be good again. They were 10-1 and had that collapse. Let's go to Uncle Frank. Hello, Uncle Frank.
Oh, boy, you sound excited to hear from me.
Man, I missed you last. I was disappointed in you. Where were you yesterday?
You know what, Andrew? Emma, we were going to go, and then she blew me off. So,
Oh,
yeah.
dude. Wow. Sorry.
I know.
You know, that's part of the reason why I think they lost yesterday. Because last year I saw you and Fish, and I felt I was like, all right, the guys are here. NFC Championship game. Let's go. Hey, you didn't show up yesterday.
Happy tumultuous Tuesday, team. I was expecting nepotism regarding your dad's call, but you're a trained professional, my man.
Oh, of course I, man. This isn't a Jalen Hurts, Brian Johnson situation. Oh, man.
It was an honor to hear from Mr. Chidas. You know, I haven't had a hangover in, well over 40 years, but I got a hell of a one today. Speaking figuratively, of course. You know, I pride myself in figuring out the keys to everyone's kingdom, but I got to tell you, for the life of me, I don't even know whose kingdom I'm trying to enter with this squad. I'm so confounded. I've been mentally wrestling with what the ointment is, and you know, I don't know whether I lay blame at the meddling owner and by the way, sidebar, Belichick. What's his name? From Tennessee. They're not coming here. Yeah, Rabel. They're not coming here. There's no way. But the owner, Howie, the locker room, and the leaders of it, the quarterback, the coordinators, the coach. I'll be damned if I know where to turn or who to lay blame at. I mean, you can't point. Can you point your finger at one thing? It's just a collective.
No, I mean, look, for yesterday's, I will point solely at Nick Sirianni. Obviously, a lot of people get the blame, but if I'm going biggest, cut of the pie, it's Sirianni because he's the offensive game planner. He has said that multiple times on record. Do I fully believe all the things he says? No, because I don't believe he's the reason why Matt Patricia's the defensive coordinator. But yesterday, you can't go into a game, Uncle Frank, against a Todd Bowles defense that you know is going to bring pressure and not have a single answer for it. And that's malpractice. And I know Jalen Hurts didn't play well yesterday, but he was put in a terrible position.
Yeah, and I'm also holding the defense to the same regard as Nick. I mean, that was just embarrassing.
But the defense at least somewhat kept you in the game. And thanks for the call, Uncle Frank, as always. They kept you in the game. Think about it. They scored the safety. Oh, I mean, the offense is the reason why there's a safety. That makes it 18-9. So it's a 2-score game. If I ignore the safety for a second, let's say based off of the defense alone, it's a 1-score game until the end of the third quarter. The defense actually played their best game in a while, even with the first 4 drives all amounting into points. Does the defense stink? Yes. I'm not changing my opinion on the defense. I'm not saying, you know what, run it back, right? Bring back Patricia. Let's go with this linebacker crew. Let's stick with Bradbury for another year. No, I'm not doing that. But right now, the problem yesterday wasn't the defense. The wheels ended up falling off when they score touchdowns on back-to-back drives late in the third quarter and in the fourth quarter, including a 14-play, 93-yard drive that took 6 minutes off the clock. But the Eagles' offense was also not putting them in good positions. I mean, again, they gave the Buccaneers 2 points themselves with the safety. That made it a 2-score game. Let's go to Jared in Kansas City. What's up, Jared?
Hey, not much. Thanks for taking the call. Tough loss for you guys last night. They need to fire Patricia. He's one of the worst coaches in the NFL, and the OC needs to go too. I think Sirianni's the right guy for the job, and if you guys want to fix Jalen Hurts and the offense up there, go get Eric Bieniemy. He's not going. I doubt he'll get a head coaching job this year. So, and he's probably not going to stay in Washington.
Let me ask you something. I'm cool with Bieniemy. Don't get me wrong. Why do you believe Sirianni is the guy?
I mean, you guys won the Super Bowl last year.
Okay, and as I brought up, they did get to the Super Bowl last year. They also had a historic collapse that we have not seen since 1986 in the NFL.
I mean,
I mean, it's been 40 years almost, right? Like that doesn't just happen. And they were 10-1. They were 10-1, Jared, and he lost the locker room.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just think he's a good coach. I mean, stuff happens in an 18-game season, injuries, etc.
They're the healthiest team going into the playoffs. You can't even give me injuries, Jared. I know A.J. Brown got hurt, but you saw Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. And let's not cry river for Reed Blankenship. It's not like he's some incredible safety. And then, once again, the defense played okay yesterday. The Eagles actually were one of the more healthier teams going into the playoffs, so I can't even go injuries.
Yeah.
They were at one point, Jared, and I appreciate the call, man. I'm guessing he's a Chiefs fan, so he's not living it the way we are, right? He saw the Eagles in the Super Bowl, almost beat his team last year. Obviously, Bieniemy was once the OC in Kansas City, so he's shown some love to the former OC. I appreciate Jared calling in, man. I do. I appreciate the kind words, saying tough loss for you, all that kind of stuff. He's not living it day to day like we are. He's not. And that's Jared, a caller from Kansas City. Adam Schefter's not living it day to day like we are. Complaining about expectations being too high. They were 10-1. They were 10-1. I can't stop saying that. They were 10-1. And they finished 11-6. And then not just lost, got embarrassed in the playoff game. Embarrassed. The wheels fell off. And I think he's a good head coach, Jared says. Like, look, I have said this multiple times. I don't need my head coach calling plays. But then I need everything else to be clicking on all cylinders. You had a defensive moment yesterday where you had 10 guys on the field in a playoff game. And if he's asked about that, I doubt the press conference is happening today. I still haven't got, I'm guessing he's talking tomorrow, right? If he's asked about that moment, he'll say, yeah, miscommunication. I've heard the term miscommunication come out of his mouth for 18 weeks now. When are you going to fix your communication? You're the head coach. You don't call plays on either side of the ball. You're the head coach. Communication shouldn't really be an issue for you. Calling timeouts when you don't need to, but because of something else going on. Not the right personnel in the field. Game plans being crap. He doesn't do anything during the game, and yet all the stuff that he should do, which should be finely tuned, is a mess. I know he was in the Super Bowl last year. I give him a lot of credit for that. But to lose the locker room at one point in the season when you were 10-1, that doesn't just happen. John on the cell. John, you're on the Fanatic.
You talk about figuratively. I put that there with percentages, especially when you're talking about the Phillies in 64. That really gets to me. You know that?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, it's this one and the Phillies are the two biggest collapses in Philadelphia sports, at least that I know of, right?
The Phillies one, I went to about 30 games that year. I have never felt that way after that. I don't care how many times the Eagles lose. They ain't going to make me feel like the 64 Phillies did.
Okay. Well, all right, so it was yesterday close for you?
No.
Okay.
No, the Phillies this year was closer than anything.
All right. Well,
especially when people are calling up about the relief pitcher causing them to lose that series. They didn't hit, So
yeah, I understand, John. I appreciate the call. We're not talking Phillies today. I understand what he's saying. Like, nothing will hurt him the way 1964 did. I get that. I'm sure he's not alone in feeling that. But then I'll say it from my vantage point. I didn't have a 1964 as a younger lad. This is my 1964, right? When talking to Cooper 10 years from now, and he's asking me, what was it like being a Philadelphia sports fan growing up? I'll bring up this season as being one of the most disappointing seasons of my lifetime. I will. I'll play him tape. I'll go back in the podcast, 97.5thefanatic.com. take a listen. You'll see how I felt. Like this is our biggest collapse in our Philadelphia fandom history, Ray.
Yep.
I know 3-2 series leads that I will never forgive the Sixers or Phillies for. That's 2 games. This was a span of 2 months.
And you advanced to the postseason.
Yeah. Yeah,
The Phillies were never considered during the regular season as the best team in their league.
No, the Eagles were at one point number 1 in the power rankings. Jalen Hurts was MVP candidate. Nick Sirianni was disrespected last year, not being even a finalist for Coach of the Year, top 3 finalist. And so this could be the year. No, it all just crashed and burned. All right, well, that'll do it for today. Can't wait to do it again tomorrow.
And for the next...
might not be around tomorrow.
No. You show up.
Best show ever. They're coming your way next. Everybody, enjoy your Tuesday as much as you can. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The disaster is over. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Lowe's. Shop the closed event now at Lowe's with big savings on the appliances you need now. Lowe's knows home improvement. Shop the closed event now at Lowe's. The Birds were embarrassed on Wild Card Weekend as they lose 32-9 to the Buccaneers. It was a disaster of a game. For all the conversation about this team potentially flipping a switch of the postseason, the team showed the same flaws that sunk them throughout the end of the regular season. The offense couldn't deal with blitz and had 0 rhythm, while the defense couldn't make a tackle and allowed 30-plus points for the 5th time in 8 games. Now, the fallout. Nick Sirianni and this coaching staff's future is still yet to be decided. He addressed his future after the game.
I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the guys. Again, there's a lot of guys in that locker room, all the guys in that locker room.